Checkity checkity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How we doing? You got me back? No audio still, huh? Oh, this is a great start. Right ear only. Yeah, I gotta get mono on. There we go. Wowee. What a great start. This is exactly the way my first ever stream went. I started without my my mic on, and so some things seem to never change. Sorry about that. Enough preamble. Glad to be on the internet with y'all. That's the stuff, says Painkiller X. Got me in both your ear holes. That's exactly where I'm meant to be. And because I started with a slightly off-color thing, that means we are right at the casting desk where we're meant to be. The subjects of today's stream are not the only ones that are fish out of water. That would be, of course, Jesse Harper, Cara Carter, and Ka Chan. The idea here is that they are all going to be casting their first show coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. That'll be at the Grave Troll Games Battleground event on July 11th. It's an incredibly exciting time for anybody the first time they really get to step in the booth and show what they've been working on. And these guys have been working very hard, I can tell you. Arcane Games and Events will be assisting in the production of that show, and so we obviously have a vested interest in making it go as smoothly as possible. And we also love all of these people. They're competitors in the AG New England circuit, ones that perform incredibly well. Jesse Harper, I don't know if we could put these shows on without him. He's instrumental to everything that we do in New England, and so we want them to be able to put their best foot forward. And that's the idea behind this. We're also ripping the Band-Aid off of them being scrutinized live on YouTube, which is fun, right? Right, Jesse? Yeah, I know. Okay, cool. So let's see. Any questions before we get into this? I'm feeling good. Y'all feeling good? Jesse, Ka, you ready? I guess since you're here, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Okay. So let's get right into it, shall we? I'm going to hit the Jesse and Ka button, and immediately we should be able to see the match that they streamed for us. Let me know, by the way, if we're experiencing any technical issues. It's been a long time since I've done this. I tried my best to set us up for success, but we'll see how that went when I muted my mic. Okay, we're going to see if we're up Big Mungus.
Welcome back to the USA.
First of all, let me know if y'all are hearing the audio.
We have our backup feature match here in round 5.
Off?
We have Lucas Oswald versus Matt W. Both players XO looking to maintain their undefeated.
Okay, I have something already. But first, I got to give a shout out to my dear friends in chat that I see. First of all, both of the folks that are casting this are in chat, in case I haven't made that clear. Ka Chan and Jesse Harper. But also, what's up, Brazil? I see not one, but two of you in chat. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. My heart belongs to you, and you know that. Rafael, you're the king. Vamos bordas. Okay. First of all, we're 12 seconds in, and I already have my first note. Let's listen in.
Classic constructed Swiss record going into draft. Lucas played.
Start this. There we go.
Welcome back to the USA National Championships. We have our backup feature match here in round 5. We have Lucas Oswald versus.
Boom. Okay. So obviously, Jesse and Ka are cutting into this a little bit earlier than casters would normally be doing their preamble. Obviously, in a real life setting, they would go ahead and cut to the casting desk. We do stuff like go over standings. Usually it wouldn't be an ad segment, at least in an LSS show, until after the round. Of course, when we cut back from break, we want to get you down to the action as fast as possible. The first few things that you say are your attention grabber, right? Your hook, just like the beginning of a great song or the beginning of a great book. And so I would caution you away from something too generic like welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is a note that Mitch Leslie gave me when we did a VOD review at my house. He did this exact thing to me 10 seconds in. Do you always start the stream like that? So I highly encourage you to try to, obviously in this case, Jesse and Ka, you're not using a real tournament that you cast. Try to come up with something that ties the previous match to this match, or just a humdinger that will get people prepared for what they're about to see. It's one of those things that will separate you, the good casters, from the great casters, obviously. If you're in my seat, you can't help but make a rhyme or a pun. If you're in somebody better's seat, you will probably say something about the setting in which these players find themselves or the stakes. So let's continue on.
Math W, both players XO looking to maintain.
Heck yeah, V-Structor, I hear you. Let me see if I can crank this sucker. Check 1 2 1 2 1 2. How's that feeling? And while I'm giving that note, Jesse, I do have suggestions. In general, my go-to is to remind everybody what they have just seen and who won the previous matchup. So in your case, you need to make up what people might have seen before. In this case, it would be fine, since you're making it up, to, lean on a little bit of Nolan-esque exposition in order to kind of remind people what they just saw. For example, you could manufacture a situation where Syndra beat Marionette, and you could say something like, flaming telepathic kunai come in over the top, supplanting Hunter's Claves as the best daggers in the room. That's, of course, because Syndra just took down Arachne Marionette. Blah, blah, blah. You get the idea, right? Okay, glad the audio is feeling better. We'll see about Jesse and Todd's audio as well. Okay, back into it.
Draft. Luca's playing Acilio, a hero that many players in the Fab community wrote off and said that it was dead.
Good,
Didn't
Jesse.
have any legs now that Volzar was banned and all the other cards. And then we do see a resurgence.
I'm saying good here, obviously,
so
because Jesse's immediately delving into the history of the hero right here and now. The stream that they're going to be a part of is not going to have this kind of a flow, right, where we see the hero cards, and you have to say a lot about them before we get down into the actual match. But the main thing that we're trying to do here is go from, let's call it, level 1 is down the nitty gritty of each turn cycle, the specific things that the players are doing. Level 2 is the intricacies of the matchup. Which of these heroes should be winning? Which of them should be losing on average? Which one's the beatdown? Which one's the deck that just needs to stem the tide until they can get their pivot turn? That kind of stuff. Level 3 is the tournament at large. Like, what are the stakes that we are playing for? What's the implications for these players and their tournament run? So as we proceed from, the caster desk down to the match, we're slowly going from level 3 and zooming into level 1. That's the purpose of all these interstitial things that we're doing.
Largely
so Jesse's following this structure pretty nicely
this time around.
Yeah, I think the Omens of the Third Age set has given a lot of new tools to Acilio. Things like Echo Flash.
Chris Fab says those are my best friends.
An instant
they're mine.
says when this put into your graveyard, deal 1 arcane damage. Just able to discard that for free with the hero ability, deal 1 arcane.
Cool, talking about key cards here.
Is really
again
strong,
slowly bringing focus into what players are going to see.
Lightning tools like Gone in a Flash hasn't gone anywhere. Lightning Greaves hasn't gone anywhere. We saw Majin Bay earlier in the day playing a combo deck with Gone in a Flash, Lightning Greaves.
Very nice.
Astral Bridge, trying to find multiple instants to just create this crazy amount of Gone in a Flash attacks in one turn. I wonder if we'll see Lucas doing something similar.
Okay, awesome. I love what these players are doing, especially given the fact that if Ka watched coverage, he knows what Lucas Oswald is on already. This is obviously a match from U.S. Nationals where we talked ad nauseum about the different types of Acilio that people could be bringing to the tournament. It's not just the Gone in a Flash variant that Majin Bay brought. Nevertheless, Ka is leaving himself, like the viewer, as they should be, a little bit in the wind as to what they can expect. He's also setting the audience up for the upshot of everything that we're trying to do before we proceed into the match is to leave little Easter eggs. You want to reward your audience as much as possible by leaving things that they can look out for. And then when they notice it, you've given them this education, but also something that they can discover on their own. I knew I was supposed to listen for that, and there it is. It's happening. It's also one of those things that make you a particularly good caster, and it makes you seem knowledgeable about the game, which is, paramount to what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, there are multiple builds of the
really well
Acilio deck going around. We have seen kind of the adoption of what people are calling spell Cilio, where you're playing more of a Kano-esque style game plan, and there's like wildfires and storm striders in your deck, really punishing people for taking Arcane Barrier out of the list because they thought that most of the wizards in the format were dead and gone. But interested to see what kind of Acilio Lucas is playing here. I think traditionally Acilio versus Gravy would be Acilio favored, but with the cards from Omens and how Acilio's had to...
Okay, so Jesse, you did something right there. You used Ka's final point as a springboard, but ultimately you ended up kind of reiterating the point that he just made, that there are two different builds of Acilio yet to die. You finally got to the point that I wanted you to get to, and then quickly leave Acilio and start talking about Gravy Bones, which is, I expect this to be Acilio favored, or I'm sorry, I don't actually remember what you said, but that was the point that I was waiting for, that I wanted you to go to straight after Ka mentioned it. We're obviously looking for something that's a little bit more lickety split when we want to proceed down into the match. You want to condense as much of what you want to say into as few words as possible, and that's where relying on your co-caster and developing that rapport is going to help you a lot. Once you can kind of establish the confidence that they are going to say the important bit. And then once they've done it, go ahead and just move on to the next thing.
Acilio with Gone in a Flash and
we're still talking about Acilio.
Just being able to amp a crazy spell.
And I don't know if you guys were in, forgive me, if you guys were in a situation where you were just trying to run out the clock in the recording until, well, maybe you were, and we haven't touched on Gravy Bones a single time.
Striders here. So we can kind of assume that he's going to be a much more spell-focused Acilio list, since the Lightning Greaves are not in the leg spot.
Cool. We asked a question going down to the match, and then we answered it right when we saw equipment presentation.
And immediately activates Gravy Bones. Drawing a card, discarding a card, getting rid of this gold token, putting a Sawbones into the yard, trying to set that one up for later, I imagine. We do see a Conqueror of the High Seas in hand.
Okay. Jesse, I'm going to assume based on the timbre of your voice that you're using and also the things that you're calling out that you're in the play-by-play seat on this. What I will say about that very quickly is there was a little bit of verbal garbage there, right? Obviously, he's setting up Sawbones for later. We don't need to narrate every possible part of what's going on. And I'm not saying that to be harsh. I am just giving you permission to provide a little bit of silence, especially early on in this game, if what you're saying is not 100% relevant to what is going on. Obviously, he's setting up the Sawbones for later. Let's instead think about something we could say that is useful to the viewer. For example, Sawbones hitting the yard very early against a all-arcane opponent is huge. Establishing Sawbones is essentially an extra piece of AB, or kind of a piece of Spell Void in a way. It also provides a threat that Lucas has to answer immediately or suffer the repercussions of if it sticks around on the board forever. Now, if you're in the play-by-play seat, you might be better positioned to set your analyst up for that point. Say something like, Sawbones hits the graveyard immediately. Ka, is this one of the better allies that Matthew could be setting up at this point?
I think there was a Conqueror as well as a cheating Scoundrel, but Loot the Hold as well.
Okay, and Jesse mentions that he was trying to fill because he didn't know how long that interim would be. What I would encourage you to do, circling back to that, what I would encourage you to do, especially because I assume that you're watching this on YouTube, is find sections like that, and whoever's operating YouTube at that point, go ahead and just pause and see how long it takes you guys to go ahead and get through those interstitial sections. Give yourself opportunity to find out what your organic flow is, right? Because obviously, when you're in the booth, your producer is going to be waiting with bated breath to cue down to the game whenever you kind of cue them to do so. So give yourself a shot at driving the bus, because that's exactly what you're going to have to do come July 11th.
Here, generating a resource because an ally has been put into the graveyard, and then playing this cheating Scoundrel into a Saltwater Swell, flipping a blue, going up to 3 resources. Saltwater Spell coming in for 4. I guess this is the blue version.
Yeah, coming in for 4 off of that cheating scoundrel, but also threatening the wagering of a gold here, and maybe perhaps Matthew expecting Lucas to have a bunch of instants in hand. Acilio, a deck known for not blocking very well due to all those non-blocks, but
Also, good spot on the Conqueror of the High Seas at the beginning of the game, Jesse. One of the other things that we can mention with that Saltwater Swell, especially if you are in the play-by-play seat, Saltwater Swell comes in and, man, hits a blue off the top, and all of a sudden, on this turn 0, Conqueror of the High Seas is on the table. Acilio, not a deck that is known particularly well for blocking. Is Matthew going to deploy it here or set it up for a moment where it could potentially really hurt an arsenal? Something like that, right? That was a moment to kind of go up one notch in terms of pace and perhaps volume.
He's just going to put out a Fate for Scene, covering up this 4-go again here.
Yeah, a card that I want to draw attention to is the Future Sight that Lucas discarded. Future Sight making Sigil of Fate tokens for this deck really feels like he's leaning into the
where we had a Jesse in the chat says where we had a bit of an odd cadence with each other and the traditional color analyst roles seemed very stiff. Explain that a little bit more. Are you saying that you did not delineate roles? You kind of just went for it?
I am Kano cosplay variant. We don't see this card a lot, and I think it's the first time we've seen this.
Apparently I made this thumbnail a little bit misleading. Sorry, Kevin Murphy. No, this is not a live Battleground going on. It is a Wednesday, and Battlegrounds are only on weekends. I'm trying to help prepare the casters who are going to be casting the Battleground next week.
Card hit the playing field in Classic Constructive.
Yeah, so Future Sight, for those who may be unfamiliar, is a
good shout out on Future Sight.
Costs 1 and just says create 3 Sigil of Fate tokens. The Sigil of Fate tokens all just destroy themselves at the start of your turn to allow you to collect 1. But the important thing about it is that they have the word sigil in the name, which is where Aether Bindings of the Third Age is able to take advantage of that. So it will amp 1 for each sigil that leaves, and with 3 Sigil of Fate, that's going to be 3 amp on that potent combo turn. So Lucas perhaps looking to find something like an Aether Flare to boost off of that amp.
Okay, get off of it.
We do see Matt W respond by deploying the Sawbones here, and then coming in with a gold-baited hook activation into the Sawbones attack with the 1 resource he has floating. Oh, wow. And Lucas responds with immediately killing the Sawbones with a strike twice. That is a very punishing turn 0.
Nice. Okay, cool. So my one gripe here, you did get to the point about Aether Bindings of the Third Age, which was something you definitely needed to nail. Now, we did miss a little bit of action while that was happening. Consigned to Cosmos Shock was played out, activation of Volzar Meteor Storm, and the target was Gravy Bones. So this strike twice could have been telegraphed a little bit had we been able to catch up on the play-by-play. So that's one of the things we need to work on, right? As the analyst, because I'm calling you the analyst in the room for this one, it is your job to kind of treat your brain like random access memory, right? Constantly refreshing something to say and flushing it out when it becomes irrelevant. The other key point to being an analyst is making your point quickly and concisely, especially when you see on the board that something interesting is happening. So that was a little bit of a moment that was missed just because we couldn't condense that point about Aether Bindings into a few less words.
Yeah, not being able to keep that Sawbones around is going to lose Matt some potential value with that prevention ability, but also just not getting that 6 damage through. Pretty tough here.
And we do see another strike twice deployed from Lucas Oswald here. Coming in for 3 Arcane.
Yeah, and Jesse, I hear you on
Arcane Barrier on the side of Matt.
I hear you on trying to be less, like a little more loose with the roles as far as establishing the game state goes, the housekeeping. I would say that it is best to go ahead and delineate those roles, whether or not you are going to play with a little bit more gray area, because that is something that certain casting duos will do. For example, Sam, whenever he has to engage with the production aspect of things, like when we're in between rounds and he's trying to pair or figure out a pairing while also running the tournament or dealing with lunch orders or whatever, he will totally go silent, you'll notice, and Ponkish will pick up the baton and just kind of go for it. So it's totally reasonable to go ahead and play with who is doing the housekeeping and who is not, but I do encourage you to delineate roles so that when we establish a regular flow once again, everybody knows where they're supposed to be, right? It's why we delineate positions in soccer or hockey. You just want everybody to be in the right place at the right time so that they can catch the ball. I'm mixing a lot of sports metaphors, but I think you catch my drift.
Yeah, I think it's just the scuttle toes for AB1 there. The crown of the headpiece spot is kind of has to be like Crown of Dominion or Carrion Crown, right? Just to get that gold and that ally into grave early, and then something like Dead Threads and Gold Baited Hook feel kind of almost necessary for Gravy Bones to function. So only AB1. You kind of only has.
And
so
the
much
other reason
force
I
in it,
mentioned
but
that,
it's
of
likely
course,
to be
Jesse,
a
is because were you to ever do an LSS cast, the roles will be delineated. So in this environment, you might as well practice for the highest stakes.
5, and then a future sight coming out on the side of Lucas Oswald. Card we just talked about, 3 Sigil of Fate tokens created. Each one
Nice,
of those
Jesse.
is going to pop at the start of the turn. And Lucas is looking primed and ready to go off.
Good. Nice.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if Lucas will choose to go off immediately just with these 3 sigils. I feel like you can try to, especially into a deck like Gravy, where he's not going to be threatening lethal very soon, you can probably hope to find a little bit more value out of the Aether Bindings. But Conqueror of the High Seas coming out here, Lucas immediately Crown of Providence.
One thing I'll quibble with you here, Ka, is first of all, we do want to treat, as much as possible, obviously, we want to treat a casting pair like an improv group, which is to say that the majority of the time what we want to be saying is yes and, not no but, right? And the reason for that is it'll in general just keep a conversation, a dialogue going between you. A no but puts a full stop on the conversation, right? And then you have to start anew from somewhere else. One of the points I want you to focus on as a new casting pair is number of times that you organically swap between one another. It's called a throw. So the number of times you throw between one another within reason. I don't want you to be throwing every single other word, but the more times that happens in a game, 9 times out of 10, the more engaging the cast is going to be. And also, the more you can feed off of one another's energy. And also, the more it establishes trust and respect between both of you. Now, the one thing I'm going to quibble with you hear about is the fact that Lucas has already discarded one of his future sights. He did that on turn 0. Now, that's something we need to consider when we're making that call about whether or not he's going to go off. The other thing is this big honkin' conqueror of the high seas. Now, right before you started talking was when that conqueror got played, right? So you're saying, I don't know if he's going to go off. And now I think you're right, because all of a sudden his arsenal is under threat, and it's going to be harder for him to go ahead and get that going.
Fate tokens created.
But
each one of those going
instead of saying that, what we went for was,
and Lucas is looking primed and ready to go off.
See, so Jesse just handed you, he just threw to you to continue that point. And in this case, it is kind of a no but to say, I might not pop off because of this Conqueror of the High Seas, but that's because we are gaining new information from the audience. That still, in my book, counts as a yes and.
But Conqueror of the High Seas coming out here, Lucas immediately, Crown of Providence, put that arsenal away safely.
Oh, wow, that was a lot of red incense in the hand for Lucas.
Nice, Jesse.
Does have access to the Acilio Hero ability, so can just choose to discard one to draw and hopefully find something better. But I believe that Matthew, with no allies in the grave right now, kind of floundering for a follow-up after that.
Cool. He's got a
He's
turn.
going to have to use this gold again immediately.
That was an opportunity to pass back to our play-by-play Jesse.
Swappy into the bin.
Yeah, and then does also have to play a blue, but luckily does have the Call to the Grave in hand and the 2 resources floating, so likely going to deploy this Call to the Grave, get another ally into the bin, and deploy the Swabby, and attempt to activate the gold-baited hook to refresh your gold.
Remind me, Swabby has 3 health?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So
we should know
if
that,
he's not
boys.
careful.
Yeah, I see multiple.
Be
red
confident
flash
about
bolts
it,
in
Jesse.
Lucas's hand right now. That is an instant card out of Omens. Costs 2, but does deal 3 arcane damage. So if Matthew isn't careful, if he just puts out a guy and sends it in hoping to get a little bit more chip damage, Lucas might just respond by killing it immediately.
Because we already
Something
saw that
interesting
earlier
here
in
is
the
he
game.
goes and fetches the Sawbones, but because all those red instants are 3, not 2, even the Sawbones is not safe if he chooses to deploy it here from those red arcane spells of Lucas.
Archery 0, shock, no block. What are you talking about? Of course that's good. Right?
You can see Lucas here discarding a flashball, perhaps trying to find a card with which to pitch for the second one in hand.
Okay, Jesse. Something you did there is something I want to discourage. Okay? Emoting vocally is something that while it feels like it is something that can engage your audience because you are giving a genuine reaction, it is also something that when your co-caster is speaking can completely derail their thought process, which I think is something that we saw happen here. Caw can speak for himself. But in general, one of the things that it was Ellie at Kansas City really had to work on was emoting vocally when something would happen. And the reason being is that the emote itself doesn't tell your audience anything. I want you to cast to the people that aren't actively watching the stream, but the ones that are actively listening to it, right? So the play-by-play's role is not just to go, oh, wow. It's supposed to go, oh, wow, what the hell just happened? Because if I'm sitting there making dinner and I hear this going on, I'm like, oh, wow, that doesn't tell me anything about the board state. I'm trying to paint a picture of it in my mind. And so that's also something that Michael Fung and I had to work on a little bit in Nationals. It's like when you are the analyst, you don't want to be saying card names, but the effect of just going like, oh, well, that changes things isn't enough to tell the story. And so that's often when he would try to kind of throw back to me when it's like, no, you can say what the card is. You're not stepping on any toes. Just keep the people understanding of what's going on.
We do see him draw up another copy of Future Sight.
Yeah, it looks like Sawbones has made it onto the table and is going to be sent in for 6 here off of the dead threads. But I feel like Lucas is probably pretty content to just throw a bolt at it, correct? Oh, all right. Never mind. I spoke too soon. Aether Binding's going to be put in front here.
What does that tell us? I know we've gone over it.
Woohoo! Future Sight immediately put out here.
Oh, come on. That's big.
6.
Give me a little more there, Caw. So one of the pain points for both Caw and Jesse, and specifically them as a caster duo that they told me before doing this, is that they feel like golf commentators, which is to say they don't feel like they're emotive. They don't feel like they're engaging, at least vocally. There are a broad spectrum of ways to do a cast. Obviously, I'm somebody that gets incredibly loud and intense when I feel like it's warranted. But there are other folks that are also at the top of their casting game, like Scott Mines, for example, who almost like slows his cadence down a little bit when things are more dire. Obviously, he can get loud with the best of them, but he's somebody that tends to kind of like pull back and try to give the moment a little bit more gravitas. And so what I would encourage you to play with, instead of volume or intense emotion, if that is not your thing, which it doesn't seem to be your guys's, instead play with cadence. That is the main thing that can give a moment some import, right? And Ka, for your part, I think you were the one who was on deck when that second future sight came out.
Lucas is probably pretty content to just throw a bolt at it, correct? Oh, all right. Never mind. I spoke too soon. Aether Binding is going to be put in front here, just covering.
And this is where we can start kind of ramping up. Like, what does this mean? Oh, it's a future sight, a second one out of the deck. This is the only one remaining, and thereby Lucas has already unlocked the maximum potential left in the deck for his Aether Bindings, right? So it's not something that requires a whole lot of volume or emotion. You can just pick that cadence up a little bit, and it'll still provide some intensity to what's going on.
Probably looking to crack it this turn with all 6 of those.
Yeah,
you're damn right.
The wheels of fate are lining up for Lucas here. We have 6 Sigil of Fate tokens to resolve. Does go ahead and activate the Aether Bindings of the Third Age. It's going to be Amp 6.
Amp 6, as well as opting 1 6 times. And since Cecilia's hero ability is just a once per turn instant, could discard one of those instants that he currently has in his hand. Perhaps trying to find another combo piece to make this turn even scarier. Looks like opting 1 to the bottom.
Mine's it off the second one.
Got to be Aether Flare.
Yep, Aether Flare.
Oh.
Okay, cool. So yeah, Ka, you were kind of building towards it. Go ahead and take a swing, man. I feel like I know that that it was in your mind that Lucas was specifically looking for an Aether Flare. Go ahead and fire off, man. Because that's one of those moments you would have been rewarded immensely for putting yourself out on the ledge.
So no.
Oh, and then
come on, somebody's got to be talking though.
Your ability is instant speed.
So this is another thing I want to talk about. If you are verbally emoting, Ka, you are in the driver's seat right there. You were the one actively speaking. Jesse's actively reacting, which obviously is something that's not bad. I would encourage you to keep it within, though, Jesse. When you guys are sitting next to each other in the desk, at the desk, you can go ahead and emote with your body, and that still provides something to your co-caster. That's still something that can give them the boost that they need to, say, pick up the pace with their cadence or do something different to provide that intensity.
It still gets to resolve the rest of these sigil fates after drawing.
But as I mentioned, Ka, it definitely felt like you were derailed by that verbal exclamation from Jesse. So just keep going. If you are already the one speaking, don't worry so much about the throw when something this important is happening.
Matthew, a very kind soul, counting down those sigils as they go for Lucas here. And at the end of it all, amping 6, amping 7 with that Volzar activation here. Aether Flare for 9, since it's only a yellow, but still 9 damage, and it's going to be amping the next card this turn played.
9 would be the
red that deals arcane damage based on how much damage it deals. That's a really big number.
No, you're absolutely right.
What a crazy interaction here. That is wild. And I think the last card in his hand is the red flashbolt, right?
Yeah, and with the blue.
So that red flashbolt should be coming in for 12 if all of this arcane damage goes through.
So Jesse, right there, I think you're a little bit too concerned, maybe because of your insecurity about emoting, and we lost a moment where we could like get that analysis out just a little bit sooner, right? Because you know the red flashbolt is there, you know the combo that's about to happen. Go ahead and get there. There's no need to yes, you can say, wow, this is really important, but don't just say that. Continue providing context.
I imagine Matthew's not going to allow all of it, right? Like, surely, because like if you prevent 1 damage with this.
Arena Poner 361. God, I miss saying chat names out loud. That's too fun. Arena Poner 361 says, does anyone hear a weird noise when the casters talk, but not when Bryce talks? Yes. Jesse's mic is a little bit hinky on this recording, but these are not production level technicals, so we're going to give them a pass on that. Apologies, but the main objective here is to critique what's coming out of their mouths rather than their technical prowess, because that won't be their job on the day.
Aether 1 damage with the AB1, it is going to save
your headset is safe, my brother,
life, because that spell coming afterward is going to deal 1 less as well.
Whoo boy.
Going to use Sawbones just to prevent the one here is Matthew. So this flashball going to be coming in for 11 after the buff with Aether Flare. Lucas struggling to find the die for a second, but Matthew once again just saves him the time, just says, I will take it all. Down to 16.
This is turn.
That was the first time that I have heard a life total update. And the life totals are currently 25 plays 16. Little late. One of the jobs of the play-by-play caster, and this is exactly why I want you to specifically delineate roles, is to do the housekeeping. Who, what, where, when. That's the play-by-play caster. Why is the analyst. Why is a very difficult job. That's why that's the only job of the analyst. Otherwise, the play-by-play caster is kind of just reading what they see. Now, it's more complicated than that, but we have to have somebody whose sole responsibility it is to keep the board updated. Okay. So whoever's in play-by-play, in this case, I'm assigning it to you, Ka, even though you guys didn't make that delineation straight up. It's your job to say what the life totals are as they're updated. It doesn't have to be every single time a point is dealt, but probably once per turn cycle is pretty nice, especially when we're seeing as big of swings as we've seen this game.
This is the first turn cycle of the game, Ka. This is insane.
Yeah, I think Lucas found all three of those future sites, like in the top 10 cards or so of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
The Acilio hero ability allowing you to cycle up to 2 cards per turn really helps a lot with finding these combo pieces.
19 arcane damage conveyed on Matt W's first real turn of the game. We go into his second turn here. We see a cheating scoundrel into a Restless Bones, flipping a chum off the top. No, it was there because the compass is sunk in depths.
Nice.
And Lucas thinking, should I block this? Can I block this?
Yeah, Chum pulling a lot less weight in this matchup in particular.
Not super interested in that last point there, Jesse. One of the things I caution people away from early on is to say things like, let's see what they are going to do with this. Let's see if he will block this, that kind of thing. I find that to be empty calorie casting. I think there is so much going on in the game of Flesh and Blood. There's always something better to talk about than an effective, like, one thing leads to another, or the next day he X, and obviously I'm using tropes from literature rather than esports, but I think you understand what I'm saying, right?
Particular, where Lucas is not going to be attacking probably at all, so that that ability of Chum's to force you to attack.
Let's go back and find out what would I have said there.
A lot with finding these combo pieces.
I think I would have just thrown to my analyst here.
Conveyed on Matt
W. Or I would have talked about what the rest of this turn can look like.
Real turn of the game. We go into his second turn here. We see a cheating scoundrel into a Restless Bones, flipping a chum off the top. No, it was there because the compass is sunk in depths.
Or I would talk about the considerations for Lucas on the rest of the turn. Because Matt still has 2 cards in hand and a blue will enter the graveyard once this combat chain is closed, Lucas doesn't have to just consider Restless Bones coming in for 7 on-hit gold. He's also got to consider the prospect of a Chum or a Swabby hitting the board and crashing in for even more damage. One thing that he knows is he's not going to be able to keep every single one of these cards unless he's willing to go down to the dregs of his life total. Something like that. But I do think that is also an opportunity to throw to your color. Maybe now that Chum has hit the board, if you're at a loss for what to say there, except for let's see how Lucas blocks, you could say something like we talked about at the beginning of the game. Like, how relevant do you think Chum actually is into an all-arcane Acilio list? Oh my God, Cards with Michael. Michael Fung is in the chat. One of my favorite casting teammates. I love this content. I feel like there's this background excitement of doing it live that helps amp me up. So maybe that'll also help Ka and Jesse. I couldn't agree more, my friend. That's why we're all here.
Thinking, should I block this? Can I block this?
Yeah, Chum.
So that's the direction I think I would have taken, Jesse.
In this matchup in particular, where
one of probably 3 that I gave you.
Attacking probably at all, so that that ability of Chum's to force you to attack it, not very relevant here.
Cool. Nice,
However,
Ka.
going to
Very nice.
discard Echo Flash for Acilio's hero ability. Yeah, one of these new Majestics coming out of...
Wait, and I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. Jesse, you were the one that I'm assigning to the play-by-play seat, not Ka. So thank you, Ka, for the quick update, life total update. And once again, even though we're assigning roles, it is totally fine to blur the lines between them.
Fullness of the Third Age, when this is discarded.
We just want to make sure that one of the two people has the responsibility so that it's always getting done.
W thinking here, should I prevent this? I think ultimately the answer is going to be yes. Oh, it says no. Takes the 1.
And now, if you guys are in the actual driver's seat, at that point, you could have taken a look at the hand of Matthew W. to consider the efficacy of blocking that 1 arcane, or at this point, maybe we can understand a little bit more of what's going on there because of the resource curve that we can kind of figure out. I think you saw the hand at the beginning of the turn, though, so maybe you should know that.
Yeah, it seems like a very bold venture for Matthew here, perhaps deciding that he has, after that crazy turn from Lucas...
See, Sharon 1, very thankful to have you here as well. Thanks for helping support these brand new casters.
Arcane damage, perhaps deciding just kind of needs to race here. Hope that Lucas finds an awkward hand of all instants and can just pummel him down with all these allies.
And I think one of the parallels that we can draw here, Ka, from the analyst seat is the way in which Verdance was responding to Gravy Bones before she LL'd. And I think it was often in this way. There was that iconic game with Jacob Clements where he just straight up burned out a Gravy Bones. The guy had like 5 or 6 allies on board by the time the game was over. But Arcane can keep pace, especially when the AB count is so low on the Gravy Bones side.
I don't know. This is shaping up to be quite the contentious matchup for Gravy Bones. I don't think Matt was fully prepared for 19 arcane damage on turn 1.
To be fair, are any of us ever prepared for half of our life total being presented on
Nice.
turn 1?
This is great. You see that?
Well, when Kano was around, I think players were kind of expectant of this, but with Kano being gone so long, I think Lucas's CC choice looking very good to get him to this 4-0 record so far.
Yeah. Okay, what I liked there, what I was responding to, was the interplay between you two. You were leaning on one another to prove each other's points, right? Which is really cool. And that's the advantage, of course, of doing that throw thing that I was talking about. The more throws that we get, the more dynamic it is. And honestly, the more it seems like you like each other, which people like to see.
Perhaps just taking advantage of people thinking that Acilio is dead, kind of just popping out, showing everybody that there's still plenty to be done with this elemental wizard.
Damn straight, Ka. I could have taken that point just a little bit quicker.
On hit as well. So Matthew amassing a good amount of gold.
And honestly, that could have been a little bit more of an analyst point right there, and then a quick throw back over to Jesse as the play-by-play guy. Again, I understand that your roles were not specifically delineated.
But at only 15 life, and with Lucas still having that Stormstriders up, could be very...
There we go. That's the juicy bit right there, Ka. Did you see that? 15 life, Stormstriders still up. We know what this looks like. We know the way these endgames play out, even if it's in a new form in Acilio rather than Verdant. So that's what I could have taken just a little bit earlier. I think one of the most difficult things about casting is trying to figure out the most important part of what you're saying and how to order it. So that's the only thing that comes out, and the verbal garbage stays behind. That's something I'm still working on. That's something I think we're all still working on.
For Matthew.
Lucas giving a good think here. Chump coming in with 4-4. Lucas.
I'm sorry, was that Chump coming in? Did I catch you, Jesse?
For Matthew.
Lucas giving a good think here. Chump coming in with
Chump coming in.
4-4. Lucas deciding to take the 4, falling down to 13. 13 plays 15. Matt
there we go,
W
Jesse.
ahead
Nice.
on life, but Lucas.
Also, a little clarification about the whole 13 plays 15 thing. I borrowed that, I want to say from, I forget where I first heard it. I want to say ping pong was the first time I heard somebody express it that way. You always put the active player's life total first, hence the plays, right? That's one of the ways that I like to keep the ardent listeners informed. It's still Matthew W's turn, so it would be 15 plays 13.
Choosing to keep a full grip of cards going up to his third
Chum is
counter.
a chump. But he's not a
That
slouch.
life lead could not be here for very long.
Yeah.
Oh, we do see a Comet Storm Shock discarded from Lucas.
Yeah,
It wasn't
Comet
because
Storm
he was
Shock
missing a
immediately
blue.
Discard off the hero ability, probably just to allow that Volsar to amp this Aether Sling. Although I guess he doesn't really have to, right? With only AB1, there's almost no way that Matthew would be able to prevent all of this damage.
But what was the target, Ka? What was the target?
Outside of a very timely Oasis Respite, or perhaps something like Throw Caution to the Wind.
Target was Sawbones. So we're talking about AB when the spell isn't even being sent at Gravy Bones, right? Key part of this turn cycle is 4 damage to any target. And so it is one of those go again enablers, this time with arcane damage, that can allow you to contend with these Gravy Bones allies. And it's very telling, of course, that Lucas decides to take that stance, basically sack to, I guess, 1 damage when you consider Sawbones' activated ability in order to remove it. That's the one that he doesn't want to deal with.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I would... Oh.
Yeah, Aether Sling used to
Oh,
kill
interesting.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, it does say any target. And with that, Lucas able to tap.
So there we go. You totally recovered in the moment, but that's one of those things that we just want to make sure that we nail, and also something that's simply going to come in time. I will say that the first time that I casted a game of Flesh and Blood, I felt like I had no idea where to look, because it's an unfamiliar view, right? You're used to viewing the game from one side of the board. The top-down view, while incredibly informative, is also foreign to players when you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on and say something insightful about it. So it will come with time, and I will say that the proof there is I'm probably so much more comfortable at this point in my life casting a game of Flesh and Blood than I am playing it, which, you know, is a dichotomy that switches here and there, but the number of hours I have in the casting booth is way far and away larger than that in the player's seat.
His hero to provide Aether Sling go again and just use Volvar and send this meteoric impact at Matthew's face for 6.
Oh, DM Armada says that the first person
it's
he
triggering
heard
that
say
Starfall
the
ability
whole
on
plays
Meteoric
life total
Impact
thing was
is
Hayden Dale and
huge
Sasha
here. Now we
Markovich
kind
in the game
of
Fab.
understand why the Comic Storm Shock.
Maybe it was Fab that I
discarded.
heard it from. Honestly, I
It's
can't
just
remember.
Not only
but
the
I
Volzar
loved
amp,
it.
but the extra 2 damage on the Starfall.
Yeah, we saw a little cute thing happen here where since Sawbones was sent to the graveyard this turn, Dead Threads is able to be tapped to generate a resource. So Matthew doing that just to
Free
AB,
AB.
1 of this 6 damage.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Some of players have updated life totals.
I think so. Matt W was at 15, so if he did AB the one with the Dead Threads, he should fall down to 10 because the 4 went into the Rigor Mortis.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, Sawbones.
Right. Yeah, Aether Sling went at Sawbones, not at Matthew.
Yeah.
Now I'm at fault for this too. I'm at fault of a lot of the things that I am critiquing you guys about. When you get really in the weeds about the life totals, I would caution you about spending too much time on it. I think this was a pretty good mention of it and then quick departure from it. And that is thanks to some quick table math from Jesse. So kudos to you, Jesse, there. You don't want to get too in the weeds with this, though. In general, it is best for the broadcast, unless you feel like you're seeing a very glaring error or trying to point out that a point of value was missed, something like that. Even then, you want to kind of quickly address it and go away. But I would encourage you, for the most part, to go ahead and trust what you see on the screen a little bit blindly, and that is mainly because, like, if something's actually wrong, it'll get cleared up by a judge down on the table, or in the case that we find ourselves in, where where we find ourselves in LSS broadcasts when we're watching something on a delay. There's nothing we can do about it anyway. And so hit it and depart it as soon as possible. The less the least amount of doubt that you cast on the production as possible, like the less people in chat or the audience will get derailed, right?
But notably, we do see an Aether Wildfire drawn up in the hand of Lucas here. Matt probably unaware that Aether Wildfire is in the deck.
God, I love
and
water.
We do see an Eye of Ophidia pitched. He's just going to opt. But if this Wildfire comes out, we could potentially see all 10 of Matt's life go away in an instant.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, Storm Striders and Tunic up for Lucas right now, so would not be too resource demanding to do something like Wildfire into an instant. You can see Matthew.
That's a point that I think, for my money, I would hit a little bit harder there, Ka. People are used to seeing Storm Striders in conjunction, with Waning Moon, or in the case of Kano, just another action that gets banished off the top. I think it's very important to mention here that Acilio really requires an additional instant in order to make use of Wildfire. Therefore, it's not quite the house of a card that it was in Kano, and it requires the hand setup to cooperate pretty darn well.
Still putting up the good fight here, going to send a Golden Tipple buffed by this Prismatic Leyline. So kind of come in for 4.
Putting up the good fight. I'm worried that sounds like we're writing Matthew off a little bit too early.
Starting Chum, creating another gold. Putting out some pretty good numbers still, all things considered.
Yeah, it does seem like this is a racing matchup. It is turn 3, and we have 9 plays 10 in favor of Matt W. This very, very different game from what we previously saw from Jarl and Kasai.
Oh, there was a previous game that we talked about. Nice, Jesse. So if you're already recalling used information, I didn't peek the other match that you guys worked on together, but if you're drawing on a match between Kasai and Jarl, that's something you could have used at the intro.
Sense that the Lightning Wizard would still be trying to go as fast as possible. Is that a Will of Arcana as well? Yeah.
Yes,
like
it is a Will of Arcana.
Oh.
The fireworks are primed and ready on the side of Lucas Oswald here.
Yeah, Lucas perhaps. I don't know if I saw that he had another source of arcane damage to make use of that Wildfire, but also
holy moly, Ka. There are 3 fables on this table right now. There is an Eye of Ophidia, a Riches of Troubled Dynasty, and a Will of Arcana.
Just your average game of Flesh and Blood. You know how it be. Matthew
Cute.
Going to
Great.
pitch that Sunken Treasure, perhaps hoping to just find more action off the top of the deck, but finds another Prismatic Leyline instead.
So Jesse, I actually liked that. That was cute, and a way to kind of provide, not necessarily, I don't know if it's comic relief. I don't know if I'm belly laughing, but it's also zooming us out of a tense moment, which is totally fine and good. I don't think I would kind of interrupt Ka like I feel like you did in order to make that point. I think that's something as the play-by-play that I would like keep locked and loaded just in case my my analyst stops talking. Then I would come in with a little quip.
You know how it be. Matthew going to pitch
I didn't back
that
up fast
Sunken
far
Treasure.
enough.
Perhaps
Not
hoping
a
to just
not
find
a
more action off
point
the
that I
top
want
of
to
the deck,
beleaguer.
but finds another Prismatic Leyline instead. Kind of giving a bit of a grimace, thinking maybe he should have done all this drawing sooner. If he'd been able to resolve this second Prismatic Leyline, Lucas would be at effectively, 6 after that Golden Tipple for 7?
Good, Ka. That shows me that you're using the player cams to see how each of the players is feeling in each moment. I think that is something that is so important, specifically for the analysts to do. As play-by-play, I am mainly focused on making sure everybody knows what the cards do, how much life total we're at, who, what, where, when, right? In your case, the why also comes down to what the player in that seat is feeling. For example, if Michael Fung is sitting next to me, he's been 4-0 at Nationals before. Heck, he has been all the way in a top 8 situation in Pro Tour before. He can tell you exactly what each of these players is looking for, for example, as a potential out, where their nerves might be, what they might be considering on the other side of the table, playing around, that kind of stuff. The fact that you're using the player cams shows me that you're trying to get inside their heads, and I like that a lot.
But the past is the past. We can see another blue enter the pitch just to draw yet again off the Scold. I think he was really digging here, trying to find anything to try and close out the game this turn.
He
Because
really
he knows.
does not want to give Lucas another turn. I think he's been sufficiently spooked by how fast this game is going.
Does find a rigor into the graveyard off of the Gravy Bones activation. With another prismatic leyline in hand, could play that out and then pull the rigor mortis from the graveyard, right? And then swing it for 10.
Yes, it would be a total of +4 from double leyline and then into the rigor mortis. But if he has another blue, he might be trying to just kill Lucas off the back of this Swabby.
Perhaps. Lucas, though, on the other side of the table, very relaxed at the moment. Not
Nice call.
Perhaps. Oh, wait, that's Consign to Cosmos in hand too. So
Yeah.
he does have the 0 cost instant.
Okay, so Ka, you were I'll admit the hand cam transition was a little bit of a surprise to you, obviously because you're not in control of it like you will be on the day. That generally is the first and foremost purview of the play-by-play caster. At least it is when I'm in the booth. Not that I fight my analyst off of the button to check the hand cams, but you being surprised there is interesting because I think you were driving at the point already, even without seeing the hand. You mentioned that Lucas is in a relaxed posture. Just wanted you to take another half-second leap there to say, why might that be? Why might Lucas be comfortable in this situation, especially in his case as such an emotive player? And it could very well be because, I've already got Aether Wildfire and Consign to Cosmos locked. So you could say something to the effect of, Lucas is looking incredibly relaxed here. I wonder if, yes, indeed, the instant is in the hand. He's ready, locked and loaded with the kill shot, but only if Matt W presents something that he cares about and has to respond to.
Shock to cash in that Aether Wildfire damage.
Oh, Kaz back in the chat. Jesus
I
Christ.
believe Aether Wildfire says action card effect.
Midnight 30 for you,
unsure
maniac?
if the Aether Wildfire interaction is going
You're asking
to
me, I'd make a
buff
cup
the
of coffee
Consign.
tomorrow morning.
Well, we might just find out shortly. Just
And here comes that Swabby.
coming in for 9.
Uh-huh.
So that second prismatic ley line gonna go into the pitch just to fuel this attack here.
What's that wizard thinking
So
here,
that
Ka?
threatening Lucas's life total. Putting lethal on the board, but with 4 cards in hand still.
There we go.
I don't know how much that really threatens here.
Immediately we should be doing table math for the Acilio, right? We should be figuring out exactly how much damage Lucas can do. Right now, without activating Volzar, he can go ahead and he's got enough to pay for everything. He can pitch Will of Arcana. Aether Wildfire would be coming in for 5, and then the follow-up Consign to Cosmos Shock would be 6. So there you go, 11 damage. That's what we need to be talking about right here and now, and also talking about the arcane barrier of Matthew W. That's where
Interesting
our
to
heads
see
should be at.
Scour, as there's not a whole lot of targets in this matchup.
Forget Scour.
It's probably just brought in as like a blue block 3, right?
Okay, and we flashed an Aether Flare there.
Is
So
that another Wildfire in the arsenal?
barely misseen. So one of the things that we need to talk about in this situation, the second we see another multiplicative arcane effect in the arsenal, is Lucas really does want to get to his turn, because then he could go Aether Flare, Aether Wildfire, Stormstriders, Aether Flare into Consign to Cosmos Shock. He's got like the definitive nuclear missile locked and loaded, but is Swabby making it so that he has to shoot it off a little bit sooner than he'd hoped? And does it matter because there's no arcane barrier at this point? Or sorry, there's only AB1 at this point.
I think that was a blue Aether Flare in the arsenal.
Which, like, the point still stands,
Looks like
Jesse,
Lucas
even
lined up
though
blocks here.
all you saw was red wizard fire card, because
Yeah,
both
I
of
think
them
he has to. He
effectively
might
mean
just
the
need
same
one
thing,
more turn
right?
to get it done.
Yeah, it looks like Scour going to meet Swabia onto the combat chain here. Going to take 6 off of that. Down to 3 now is Lucas.
Okay. But he can still do it after blocking 1 card. Why, guys?
Still staring down
Because Tunic's up.
a ghostly crew on the side of Matthew here.
Forget the ghostly crew. We know that lethal is there, guys. So one of the things that we need to work on, one of the things that I particularly take issue with when I watch casting duos in Flesh and Blood, is those moments where a game ends and you get this whole like, oh, and the fist bump is extended and I guess the game's over. You know the game is going to be over because you are good at Flesh and Blood, and there's a reason that you're sitting in this booth. So the second that we see lethal is available, either on Matthew's turn or Lucas's turn, we need to start slowly increasing that pace, that cadence that I was talking about. It doesn't necessarily need to be volume or emotion, but we need to know that we're building towards the end of this game. You don't want to go too big too quick, but you do need to understand that you are going to see that winner screen and you need to be hitting it on an uppercut.
Okay. Looks like Basilio activated at the end of Matthew's turn. Turn to Mindfire drawn off the top here for Lucas.
Wait a minute, he decided Consign to Cosmos? Am I high?
To be thinking about over pitching for this turn to Mindfire. Perhaps not really.
Hang on. Whoa. I'm sorry. My brain needs to do some gymnastics. He had Will of Arcana. He has access to 4 total resources. That is Aether Wildfire, Aether Flare, Consign to Cosmos, Shock. Am I wrong? That's crazy. Why aren't we doing that, Lucas?
Wanting to keep that Wildfire around in hand.
If it is Aether Flare and Arsenal.
Oh yeah,
if
duh.
He overpitches into the Mindfire.
Charlie H1, thank you. Wildfire doesn't work on your turn. I mean, it's still pretty damn good.
An activation
It's still pretty damn good, right? Because we go. Anyway, I won't beleaguer that.
Storm Striders on his turn to deploy the Aether Flare to buff the extra arcane damage.
I don't feel like.
I guess he's doing due diligence.
Where this turn of Mindfire is already coming in for 6 off of that Volzar. And I mean, I think it was a blue Aether Flare in the arsenal. So I don't know if that value proposition is quite there where Matthew.
Oh, it was blue Aether Flare. Good shout, Kyle.
From the Aether Flare.
I did miss that.
But it would be coming in for 3 if he used all the amp from the Will of Arcana and the Volzar staff, right?
Oh, there is the extra amp off of that Will of Arcana. You're right. Players perhaps missing that little bit of extra damage there because that turn of Mindfire base 5, and then the Volzar.
Rather than mentioning in that case, that the players might be missing something, I in general, because as you can see, I'm an incredibly fallible human, and I miss stuff all the time. What I like to say is, in any case, turn to mind, get back to the play-by-play, get back to housekeeping, especially when you see cardboard moving around on the table. All of a sudden, we can discard that point and we can move on. So, turn to Mindfire connects for 5 points. No ponder token generated. Matthew down to 5, and it's passed back over to him. And Lucas gets another shot at a wizard-like finish.
Yeah, that should have been for 7 there. But
3 plays 5 now. See a saltwater swell committed to the board here for Matt W.
They're looking for the kill shot.
Flipped the blue. It did flip the blue, so we have 5 resources floating.
Jesse, we did see the hand cam. The main thing I want to know there is, does Lucas have a way to capitalize on Aether Flare? Is there an instant speed effect that does arcane damage?
Just to work with on Matthew's side, but perhaps not much time. Only at 5 life, and with AB1, something as simple as like Storm Striders into a Burn Bear would close out the game at this point. So Matthew really needs to find the safest line possible to navigate these dangerous waters.
Got a pirate pun, Ka.
I should have said Stormy Waters. You're right. That was my bad.
Cute.
I thought you were better than that.
Dangerous waters. And then
Here
he takes
comes
a big drink of
another
water.
chum, friendly first mate from the side of Matt W, and is going to attack with this Swabby and a gold-baited hook activation. Don't know if Lucas has time to necessarily hold any more cards. He does refer to his sideboard. Wants to make sure that there's a card in the deck.
Yeah, Lucas.
That's a nice little tidbit. Audience members might not know why Lucas is in a deck box. Good shout there, Jesse. One of the things I want to talk about here is in Lucas's seat. Is he wishing that he went for that wildfire combo instead?
Back against the wall here. Looks like we're lining up blocks.
You see 2 Aether Flares blocked with here.
Yeah, so Swabby only going to get 1 damage through, putting Lucas down to 1, but still making that gold as well. Pretty important for Matthew to have that gold in stock just to make the rest of these turns work. And Lucas just going to send this turn to Mindfire for 6 during his turn.
Wow.
Only AB1.
No Storm Striders needed.
Okay, so I was wrong about the previous time that we should have been building towards lethal, right? But this point seems a little bit more obvious, okay? So, Jesse, you as the play-by-play, or whoever is assigned to that task, this is where you make your money. You start building that cadence slowly when you know that lethal is going to happen. Right now, obviously, is not the moment. Matthew's still got to go ahead and check the top of the deck, but I guarantee you that if Sam O'Byrne is casting this game, he's slowly building toward it, and we end on a big flourish. No. Not, there it is. That's not the way we end a game of Flesh and Blood. Okay? Slowly build towards the win and give it to the audience when it happens. Can we pan back to the Acilio draw? When is that? What are you talking about? Was that off of the Aether Spindle? I'm sorry, the Sigil of Aether? That was just the resource card he needed for the turn to Mindfire.
Just gonna send this turn to Mindfire for 6 during his turn.
Wow.
Only AB1.
No Storm Striders needed.
Yeah, with this AB1 on Matthew's side, I think this may just be Luke.
So my recommendation would be to, like, your finishing point of the entire game, Jesse, would be no Storm Striders needed. Needed build all the way through that. So if you're on play-by-play, it's turn to Mindfire coming in for 6, thanks to the fact that the Volzar is activatable because Sigil of Aether has entered the graveyard, and that puts turn to Mindfire at 6 arcane damage. And with Arcane Barrier 1, Matthew W. only has 1 way to prevent arcane damage, but it's not going to be enough. He checks the top of the deck for some kind of a respite, but that is it. You see what I'm talking about? That's where play-by-play makes their money because the hype is built and timing is everything.
There it is.
And we don't want to end on that. That's a wet fart of an ending.
Lucas Oswald ascending to 5-0 here at the USA National Championships.
And then basically when you run out of breath as the play-by-play caster, that's when the analyst jumps in and gives us the context of the victory. You can even zoom out just a little bit, not out of level 1, we're still in the game, but you can take us through the story of that game. What started with a promising setup by Gravy Bones with an early Sawbones and a Conqueror of the High Seas totally went Lucas Oswald's way when he found the maximum amount of value left in the deck for his Aether Bindings of the Third Age, and all of a sudden life totals gone in a flash, and Storms and Arcane Chip can finish it out from there. Koss says, yeah, I think lining up that big flourish is still something I'm trying to work on. It's one of the hardest things to do. I still work on it. Maybe spending too much time trying to find the proper time to get started, to start getting ramped up with play speed. And the other aspect of delineating roles, Ka, is there's no question if you've assigned play-by-play to one of the players, who should be talking at that moment. One player should be responsible for bringing that home, because if you don't, you're going to be doing kind of like this weird, like, oh, I'm handshaking and you're fist bumping kind of thing, right? It's going to be a Canadian standoff. Both of you are going to be trying to get out of each other's way and get in the game. And we end on, well, I guess it's over. Cool. Cinelin716. Fab casting so cool and so similar, but different to esports casting. Oh my God. I couldn't agree more. I could talk about it all night. Okay, great. Let's see if there's anything else in this last 30
Moving
seconds.
on with a sterling undefeated record. That is insane for a hero that most people thought was dead and gone.
Yeah, I think people had a lot of expectations walking into this room. You know, I think a lot of people
Oh
were
God, I
talking
casted
about
that game.
Marionette, talking about Victor, but I think people may have forgotten something as simple as Acilio. Even though he did lose a lot of cards, did gain a lot of cards as well. And, you know, things like Storm Striders have always been there. A lot of potential in that card pool for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we're trying to figure out where we're supposed to go after this point. Usually we have an ad segment or standings to look at, something like that. So I don't fault you for being a little bit confused. In your practice, I highly encourage you to consider that there is some form of an outro, maybe even just like you make up a matchup that you saw before the game, make up one that you're going to see after. Sometimes that can be telegraphed. In your case at the Battleground, it won't be. Just give yourself anything to talk about after the fact so that you can get in the flow of getting yourself to break. Because if figuring out a good way to end the game is one of the most challenging things, the most challenging thing, the second most challenging thing is how to sign yourself off from break. It's hilarious every time that we're training one of our color casters at AGE to do a little bit of play. Obviously, that's my purview, so just people don't get as much of an opportunity as I would like to give it to them. The throw to break is always so difficult for people to wrap their heads around. And so my suggestion on top of that, if it does prove to be difficult for you, figure out a script. Mine, the crutch that I leaned on for a very long time was, and we'll be back with more X, and more Flesh and Blood after this. You've probably heard me do it a billion times, but that was a way to create a through line with the story of the day. Usually I would pull X and Y from the match that we just saw. So in this case, it would be more dreadnoughts crashing into lightning, more ever clear storms, and more Flesh and Blood after this, something like that, right? It was obviously off the cup. Cinelin716, is there a specific way to get into fab casting? I would love to try as a caster from Mobus. There is no specific way. I think in my case, it was luck of the draw in terms of the region I was in and the fact that the AGE Open Series was in my backyard. But I will say that the way you should be doing it is kind of similar to what Ka and Jesse are doing here. Go ahead and cast over games that I would recommend that you haven't seen, but that are out there in the ether. Do it with a duo that you trust or somebody that you want to build chemistry with. What you're doing is putting together a reel like an actor would or like a cinematographer would, showing people that you can do the job by doing the job. And I think that is the main thing I would encourage anybody to take away from wanting to become a fabcaster is you won't be able to do it unless you do it. There are a lot of jobs like the one I do in the film industry and like this that you don't get good at unless you fuck it up a few times, to put it very frankly. And so give yourself safe opportunities to do just that and put together the best games that you can, send it off to Sam O'Byrne and say, hey, I would like a shot at casting. Or barring that, because busting directly into like the calling circuit is a little bit more of a tall ask, start doing a bare bones stream of your local events, like your ProQuest, your RTN, that kind of thing. It can be something as simple as like a backpack stream where all you have is one top-down camera, and then create some simple overlays. And you don't even have to cast over it live. Just go ahead and record all of those games and then cast over them when you are in the safety of your home, and then put together your reel from there. Hope that all makes sense. Okay, so overarching critique of Jesse and Ka, I would say delineate roles, choose who is doing what for all the reasons that I outlined, just so no balls are dropped. That's the key to making sure that each one of you has a seat that you are that you're working with. And then watch out for the verbal emotes, specifically Jesse, but don't shy away from reacting. That's not what I want to discourage you from doing. Just be mindful of derailing your fellow caster. Ka, you're making a lot of really good points. Just distill them down. Try to get to the point as quickly as possible is really the upshot of what I'm saying. And keep getting reps. Hope this was helpful. We're going to move on to our next VOD. It is 9:42 my time. I'm going to try to get through all three. Let's go to Cara and Jesse. Let's do that one next. Okay. Here we go.
And welcome back, everybody, to round 2, where we see Enzo on Katsu, Wanderer, and Albert on -IO.
What am I going to say? We all know it. Okay, from Jesse, some context for this one. I'm assuming there's a ... there. Ka says, yeah, I think I spent too much time trying to make sure I say the right words rather than just saying it. Those are words for us all to live by, Ka. And as a man who says way too many syllables, couldn't agree more.
Now, this is going to be a fun game because these are both heroes that, depending on the build with Katsu, especially with Dash, they're really looking for those massive turns that will make their opponents kind of take the back foot as they move on in the game, give them a little bit more opportunity to kind of turn those turns one after another. So we're about to see this begin. Jesse, what do you think?
Okay, great, Cara. My biggest issue with that intro is obviously the same critique that I gave to Jesse and Ka. Bring us in with a story beat, something other than, and we're back once again, blah, blah, blah. This one I forgive you for a little bit more because obviously we're cutting into the footage directly from the top down. Now, one of the things that you can probably notice is that equipment hasn't even been presented at the top, right? Let's go back to the beginning. Oh, whoops. Come on, media player. Cool. Equipment is being very slowly presented. All of the players are still shuffling. So this gives you the space that you need to go ahead and go from level 3, level 2, level 1, even if you're cutting directly into a game technically in progress. And this is a situation that you'll find yourself in likely at the Battlegrounds event, not this weekend, but the next. We have great ways at AG to signal our players and tell them to hold until we're ready for them. But just in case, that's always something you can do. If you notice the players aren't quite ready and that cardboard is not flinging yet, go ahead and take your time. But Cara immediately went into level 2. What is going on with this matchup? This is what we're going to expect to see from both of these heroes, and then goes ahead and passes over to color and gets out of the way.
But as they move on in the game, give them a little bit more opportunity to kind of turn those turns one after another. So we're about to see this begin. Jesse, what do you think?
I think it's going to be very...
I would recommend giving Jesse something a little bit more than what do you think. I understand that you just came off of saying a lot of words, Cara, but in general, as play-by-play, we ask a lot of questions, whether we end with a question mark or not. But it's always nice for your analyst if they're a little bit more specific. It can be something as simple as, who's going to win? Or is there anything that either of these decks can actually do to tech for one another?
Telling right from the get-go, once this armor gets flipped up, on what kind of Katsu we're going to be expecting here. And we do see an Edge of Autumn pouncing links. So what this tells me is that he's really looking for a lot of those new combo cards that came out in the Ira Armory decks for a disruption to buy himself space to pop this pouncing links and go really, really wide. And he's looking to kill his opponent in one turn.
Nice, Jesse.
Seems like something that would be scary to go against, but at least for Dash, we know if you're playing those max Vs, if you're able to get enough chain links, you can also send a pretty massive attack. So we're going to see who is going first. It looks like it might be Albert.
Yeah, so that whole exchange was fantastic. You see what Cara did there? It was very much a yes and. Like, wow, that sounds like something that you would really like to be able to deal with. But also on the other side, Dio is kind of trying to enact the same game plan. Rather than starting to figure out who is going first, as you kind of, no player is really indicating that they are, except for the fact that Albert has put his cards down onto the table and so is likely not considering anything. I would encourage you to zoom out a little bit and try to find either a parallel matchup in the game that you can talk about, or say something about, the story of these two decks. In a lot of people's cases, they would consider Dash.io and Katsu to be two ships passing in the night, which is to say each one of them is not really going to worry about what the other is doing. It is instead trying to just enact their game plan faster than their opponent. Justin Leewog, producer and co-owner of AGE, thanks for being here, Justin, says, as a play-by-play, I think it's pretty important to also reintroduce your co-caster when coming back from break at some point. The play-by-play also tends to do the housekeeping before the game starts. Absolutely right. Play-by-play is responsible for ad reads and all of the interstitial stuff. And that's exactly why we usually have our fingers on the Stream Deck, because the Stream Deck being the thing that toggles between the scenes and the ad slides that we're utilizing. Agreed that it is a very important point to introduce both yourself and the co-caster when you come back. But the thing we want to avoid is something so formulaic that it becomes stale. That's the key to coming back from break. Let's see. Jesse says, Justin Leewog, that's a good point. I think all three pairings fail to do this pretty regularly. And Jesse, I would be very gentle with yourself, specifically because you're not coming back to a caster shot, and you never will be when you are in practice. So it's something that you can manufacture in order to get yourself in the flow of it, but it is something that comes way more naturally when you can actually see yourself on screen and when you have the assignment to vamp before a game.
We do finally see Albert pick up his hand, so not
Finally,
really
Albert.
Sure what's happening here. Maybe Enzo's going first, trying to figure out how to sequence.
Too much.
Yeah, I will say for the dash, I did see at least a backup protocol red in the hand, which is always unfortunate when you draw those items right into the first hand instead of being able to do what dash does best and play them off the top of the deck.
But
yeah, it does look like Enzo is going first.
So that was a great point, Cara. What you're seeing while you're making that point, though, is Enzo, the Katsu, going ahead and just going directly to Arsenal. So you can carry that point forward even if you are play-by-play. But Albert rewarded. Doesn't look like there's going to be any pressure coming from Enzo on turn 0. So that backup protocol red is not going to be the liability that it normally can be.
We are going to see an Arsenal pass.
So, before I forget, one of the things I wanted to go back to was when we're going back and forth with each other about who is going first, there's a lot of other stuff to be talking about there, and I would encourage you to do so. The equipment selection, while it is pretty stock standard for Dash.io, I would say, it is unique for Katsu at this point in the meta, and I encourage you to make all these casts assuming that this match is happening before you today, unless you see a card of old that would be banned or something like that. Then you can kind of go back in time. But Okana Scar Wraps is not something I feel like we typically see from Katsu nowadays, especially with the advent of Wind Cutter. So we could talk about how we could be talking about the several different builds that are available to Katsu now that have revitalized him in recent days.
Here? Wait. I'm confused. Why does... Okay, he just forgot to draw his card. Okay. All right.
See what I mean? So this is one of those things that can, if we talk about it too much, can derail us in the future. Right now, we're missing some action here. Spark of Genius has been resolved with 2 blues in the pitch zone, likely to fetch a Teklo Pounder, and we're not talking about that. We're still talking about whose turn is it? Do we have enough cards in hand? Like, my point being that Flesh and Blood is so deep, you could talk about it for hours on end, right? No need to continuously go back and forth about whose turn it is.
We do see a spark of genius come
and
out
then
from the side of the
immediately
dash
for the
player.
dash.
Sorry.
Not a bad way to start at all. No, I was going to say the same thing.
I'm sorry
my
too,
issue
Jesse.
is that looking at the Spark of Genius, a lot of my cards in my Dio deck are in German. So I believe it's Gentelli or Funk in German. So I lost
Cute.
the name for a moment there.
We do see 2 Teklo core in the hand of Albert here. He did originally pitch them, and now he's just kind of walking it back a little bit. Maybe thinking that the Teklo core might be a little more important to the game plan because of the armor that Katsu has presented, and maybe he just needs those
Jesse, did we specifically delineate roles for you and Cara? Just so I know.
resources to go a little faster on the turn.
Aha. Okay, interesting.
Playing out that
What's happening?
Protocol Red, cranking it, and then putting that counter on
Okay, cool. So I'm assuming that Cara is play-by-play and you're analyst, right?
the gun and a Teklo core. You are very right, Jesse. I think setting up a good resource base going into your next turns is going to be one of the more important things when you're a dash.
Jesse says, but there were internet issues. So
taking up to 2 on the side of Enzo here.
There are internet issues in
it
standard
did look
production
like
as well.
he had a Surging Strike in his opener, and I do see an Ancestral Harmony. Curious to see if there is a Surging Strike. He's going to pitch the Harmony, floating a resource, going in for 5 go again. Now, important here, when this does hit, if this does hit, you can stack Pouncing Links and Katsu Hero ability to get the triggers in the order that you want them. So knowing this, it's pretty easy to say, I don't want to give you the Katsu Hero Power or the Pouncing Links, so I probably just want to block 5 here. And we do see that come out from the side of Albert.
Cool. Nice. I was worried there. I was worried that all of that would pass by before we got the point out about the Katsu and Mask of the Pouncing Link stacks, but you got it out. Good job.
We're seeing Albert blocking with 2 pieces of equipment fairly early, making a golden cog.
One thing I will say about that back and forth, though, Jesse, is what you specifically said. You kind of alluded to the fact that he's blocking 5. If you are in the driver's seat already talking about something, about a niche interaction, I would like you to tell me specifically what Albert is blocking with. The Cogworks Tinkerings and the Adaptive Plating. Because there's not a convenient way for Cara as the play-by-play to go ahead and jump in without derailing your point. And meanwhile, Whelming Gustwave comes down and she feels the need then to go back and talk about what was already blocked with. It's not something that's uncommon that I have to do, even with my favorite color casters. It's just, I think that's one of those situations that can be difficult when you are delineated into specific roles. You feel like it's not really your purview. But if your foot's already on the gas, go for it.
Did he forget to make the cog? I don't see the cog.
It's weird. I think I saw it. I saw it come onto the table. I don't know where it went though.
Galvanized, right?
So Enzo just going to lead up
odd.
with the Whelming
shortcut
Gustwave. So this will combo, and since Surging Strike was the last tech, it's +1 go again and on hit draw cards. So we're just going to see Albert block this out. Don't really want to give your ninja opponent the ability to draw more cards if you don't have to.
But good. What I like about what you guys did there is neither of you really knew the answer, but you touched on it real quick, moved on.
And we do see a block on the side of Albert with the Teklo Foundry Heart and then a card from hand that I cannot make out from here.
That is a
seeming to
Tebow.
be all in this turn blocking.
Let it go,
I
Jesse.
believe. Thank you. Really using all of that equipment this turn.
Especially if
this
it's
is
a blocking card, Jesse. Like just go ahead and let Cara say, I can't make it out, because she is at that point trying to be like, oh, my job is to get on with it, right? And while you're trying to help, and I totally understand and see that, you're pulling us back into a situation where we're talking about something that is not really even relevant anymore.
Be a fast matchup. Trying to get maximum value out of the equipment here is probably the name of the game for both players. And we do see Enzo follow up just with an Edge of Autumn into a Gust Wave of Second Wind, or Underwhelming Gust Wave, as dubbed by the larger Fab community.
Cute.
You never want to be that card. That's unfortunate.
Arsenal pass here from the side of Enzo.
It's like getting
We
the
have
bad
40
nickname in grade school.
Yeah. We have 40 plays 35 here in favor of Enzo going back to Albert's turn.
Okay, so you're giving life total updates right here. This is a situation where I would ask you to recall whose role it is. It can be uncomfortable if your co-caster doesn't do exactly what you expect of them. In that case, Cara, I think was okay to let it breathe a little bit and even come in with a little quip. That was totally fine because the pace of this game in general, when we're talking about cadence and building up hype and energy, the cue can often be taken from the players. And because they're being a little bit more methodical, it's okay to let things breathe a little bit more.
And that backup protocol red, unfortunately not used and going into the graveyard, getting 2 resources off of that Teklo core and able to play another backup protocol red from the deck, which will give -IO another action point to be able to use.
Keep on going, Cara.
Oh, wow.
And here we go. Another exclamation of, oh, wow, but we have no idea why. Right? If I don't have my eyes glued to the screen, or even if I do, I'm left wondering what the heck it is you're talking about. Right? So, Jesse, I do think the main note is for Cara here, that she needed to, as the play-by-play, continue on, because more stuff is happening on the board, which is her realm. Who, what, where, when. Right? You, however, sensed that you needed to take up the mantle, and your response was, oh, wow. Go ahead and step in at that point if Cara takes the back seat. The main note is for her, but you as backup, just lean into it. Go for it.
Not too bad with a Pulse Wave Harpoon.
Yeah, it's really important for anybody who hasn't fought Katsu a lot. Any sort of hand disruption that you can force onto the Katsu player is really, really important. The more cards you force out of their hand, the more multiplicative scaling it will have on the range of their turn. So for every card you take out, that means it's one less card they could potentially discard to Katsu. It's one less card that potentially combos with something else in their hand. You really shut down some of the Bonds of Ancestry lines, and the disruption becomes really, really important.
Good points, Jesse. Cara, Pulse Wave Harpoon was mentioned, and it is a house of a card to try to read from top to bottom, so I don't fault you for not doing that. I do want to know how much power it's coming in for, though, and whether it has go again or not. Those are kind of the things that I need on just about every single attack, especially on chains that can get as wide as -IO can. Also, Jesse, one of the things we're missing there is the fact that this is the first boost of the turn, so doesn't actually mean any disruption for Katsu. So that's an instance where I would try for you to hit the relevance of the card, but also keep it grounded in the relevance to the actual game state. Like, don't talk about it too
great
much
turn for Albert,
if it's
even
not
though they ended
actually
up
doing
putting
any
a
disruption
boom
for
grenade
Enzo.
in vanished zone, but being able to play that Spark of Genius, getting a Cerebellum processor, and it looks like possibly cranking it to get that action point back.
Oh, we're cranking.
Still at 2 action points and now 5 counters on their gun, which is great for setting up into kind of a more endgame.
Hey Yun Chen says, where were these games played? My guess is that it's at some national championship, but I don't know where. Wherever Uchroni's Games is located would be my educated guess. But Ronde 3, that's not French, is it? Anyway.
Scenario, but where you have the extra action point, if you're able to keep getting go again off of those boost cards, you can still shoot for 2 at the end of the turn.
Yeah, Ronde sounds very French to me.
Coming in with a zipper hit.
In my uneducated American opinion.
Oh, is that a second boom grenade? And
that's the second boom grenade. So I was like, oh no.
That does not feel good.
No. Are we harping a little bit too much on banished boom grenades? I think what I wish we were talking about was the fact that none of them are playable from the top of the deck because backup protocol red was the item played off the top of the deck already. And of course, that is a once per turn ability for Dash.io. I don't feel like, especially in against Katsu, it's like the worst thing in the world to be banishing. I mean, you're just going to be banishing cards off the top of the deck. I don't know. I might be overly sensitive because I'm still hearing, verbal utterances of WoW and not really understanding why.
It looks like clearing up some total discrepancies on the board. Albert is now down to 31 and looks like Enzo, 31 all.
Oh my god. Okay, now we can talk about it. Now we can talk about it. 4 boom grenades.
No, 2 more boom grenades off the top.
I'm so sorry. Oh, that is awful to happen off of the Teklo Foundry Heart.
Okay, Cara, one of the things I will encourage you don't have player cams here, which is often a way that we can do what I lauded Ka for in his VOD just one round ago, which was take cues from your players. But what I did see here from Albert is he spreads out the banish zone a little bit because you can assume like he can't believe his eyes. And so rather than this is probably the third time we've said, that's a bummer that they banished boom grenades off the top. Say something to the effect, Albert can't even believe it. What a wild turn of, I mean, and then we can change it to at least he's not drawing a hand of 4 boom grenades, because that's probably the worst of the 2 evils.
That is not something, usually Teklo Foundry Heart, you use that to try to find your
but this is good.
Items,
nice.
And having to banish 2 of them just to get some more resources is not a good feeling.
Someone call Aegis Sworn. We have the Talishar bug in real time. We got to get it patched.
Cute.
That's
I like that, Jesse. Let's recover, though. Come on now.
It appears to be a little frozen on my end. Unsure if this is my own Wi-Fi connection.
Okay. Kara's dealing with internet connections.
No.
All right.
So he played a zipper hit and then boosted another boom grenade.
Look at the way he's hucking those boom grenades.
Oh
I
my
don't
goodness.
think I've seen that happen that consistently before. How many?
Shuffle
is that
your
now?
deck,
5?
bro.
I think it's 5.
Ugh.
That is wild.
Get back to the play-by-play, though. We've missed a zipper hit and an outpace at this point.
And those are some of the most important items for Dash, because that can be a 4-3-2 extra damage if someone actually takes the damage. That is really, really unfortunate for Albert here, and I wonder how he's going to try to play around that in the future, and I wonder exactly how many he's playing.
Yep.
Okay, I think you know my note about this turn cycle at this point, but let's zoom out and understand the repercussions. There were 3 out of the 4 attacks on that turn cycle. If I remember right, it was Pulse Wave Harpoon, Spark of Genius, then we went Zipper Hit, Outpace, Symbiosis Shot, right? So we missed the majority of that turn because we were talking about the boom grenades. What are our life totals right now? I didn't hear one mention of Zipper Hit or Outpace. You can see that sometimes you can get a little bit too in the weeds with something novel happening and miss the point entirely. So that would be my note for that turn cycle.
That is a lot of damage out of the deck. And we do see Enzo fall down to 20 here. 20 plays 31 in the favor of Albert. But Enzo going into his turn with a full 5-card hand, Tunic counter on 3, and still has Pouncing Links up. We are going to see 100 wins start the combat chain here. Albert immediately shoves the Crown of Providence in front, putting his arsenal at the bottom of his deck and drawing a card.
So, Jesse, thanks for covering this. I do think you are in the right for doing so. But know, Cara, that this is your role. Like, you should be starting off with the life totals where they're at. It's okay if your color has to come in and do it. Just know, like this is your role.
Not a bad idea when you know there's a lot of damage that's likely going to be coming at you.
And Jesse, go ahead and shout out in chat
so
if
we'll
this is
see
one
what
of
the
those
follow-up
internet
is. The
issues
follow-up
that's
is
preventing
another
us from seeing
100 wins at the side of Enzo. This is going to get +1 for every 100 wins that is on the combat chain. So if this is red, this is going to be coming in for 4.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Really pushing that break point. Wants to maybe use Katsu power this turn.
Okay, got it. Does it snap back into place at some point?
Albert blocking
I think
with
Ka
a
told me
zipper
it
hit,
did.
and I believe I did see a max V in his hand. I'm not positive, but I think I saw that the card art. So it might be one of those turns where Albert might want to just hold on to his hand, maybe try to arsenal the max V later and just kind of block out some damage and hope you get enough cards that you can boost to be able to play that max V. But we have 2 cards sitting pretty in the hands of Enzo and 1 in the arsenal, and I'm not sure
There we go, Cara.
what card it was that he put into the arsenal.
Okay.
Jesse, are you aware? Were you keeping track of that?
I unfortunately was not able to find it, but we do see the Tunic activation here come in with the Edge of Autumn into a Seek Vengeance. So Seek Vengeance is one of those cards out of the Ira Armory deck that
So great, Jesse. I don't know, but here's what's going on right now. Fantastic.
really cares about Edge.
And I don't fault Cara at all for asking you that question, because that is, of course, an opportunity for analysis to step in and be like, yeah, I totally spotted that, and all the audience to be like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about the card in the arsenal, right? But you didn't know the answer, and you didn't worry about it for more than half a second. I love that.
Of Autumn being the last attack in the combat chain, specifically to convey Go again. So if this is a 0 for 4, we do know that there's a Whelming Gust Wave in the hand, where you see the activate of the Scar Wraps from the side of Katsu to give +1 and buy back the Edge of Autumn on hit.
Nice.
Discards the Whelming Gust Wave to Katsu power here, and we are looking for a card with combo on it. Curious to see what Enzo goes and gets in this spot. Has to be something that costs 0, I think, if he's wanting to play it.
No.
But maybe he's just looking
Just
for
to
a
discard
resource
something
card of
with
some
0.
kind.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I will say
Sorry,
that is
Jesse.
something that always scares me whenever I'm going up against really any ninja, but Katsu in particular. These last few weekends, I've just seen. I think the most I saw was maybe a 9 chain link turn, which is terrifying to go up against.
Yeah, I mean, we do see him just grab.
So we are definitely. It's surprising to me to hear that this was the game where you guys said, Cara, your play-by-play, Jesse, your analysis, because the blend is happening a little bit too much, and I understand that there are technical issues in the mix, but oftentimes on the last 2 turn cycles, I feel like Jesse's been doing Cara's job, and vice versa.
The Fluster Fist here. No open in the center on the combat chain, so it is just going to be 4 damage here. We now have 20 plays 21 as Enzo passes back to Albert. Card's still in Arsenal. Massive Pouncing is still on the table. This game is going pretty fast. Not sure how much more space Enzo's going to have to utilize his equipment.
Good. There we go. That's what I was waiting for during that whole...
I agree, and I want to try to get a
whole
handle on the cards in hand for Albert, but you see that Teklo core being removed from the table, 2 resources into the pitch zone.
Good.
Cerebellum
Nice. There we go.
processor as well, still on the table, and a T-bone coming in. T-bone was boosted.
That's what I'm talking about, Cara. That's play-by-play.
And they are, this is kind of as you just said, this card, if you can defend with equipment, you must. And so it kind of is forcing that Katsu to use the equipment now.
Yeah. And we do see the Max V in the hand that you called out earlier, and this does appear to be what would be a bread and butter Max V turn, as we see an activation of the Tekla Foundry Art.
Albert probably breathing a sigh of relief as those 2 cards go into the banished zone, and neither one of them are a boom grenade.
Cute. Nice.
Well, you might
callback.
only have 1 more in the deck if 5 are already there. I think typically the Dio players are only running the red and yellows.
So, Cara, I think that is an instance where you can have your cake and eat it too, in that you can go ahead and make that quip. That is honestly not even a situation where I'd expect you to throw to color, because you're not really giving him much to talk about, and because there's already a card back on the combat chain, just get right back to it. And then maybe my suggestion would be the proper handoff is, and all of a sudden, Enzo Snap takes this 2 from 0 to 6. What? The math isn't mathing, but bottom line, he's down to 18, and he started at 20, and Jesse's right. The time is absolutely running out for Mask of the Pouncing Lynx to be utilized.
Yeah, the blues aren't always worth it, unfortunately.
You do see a block for 3 here with one of those Seek Vengeances out of side of Enzo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And a second 0 to 60 being played, which is the third boosted attack that needs to be played before Albert is able to send that 10-point max V turn. Now, unfortunately, this is exactly where you kind of want a grenade to be sitting, waiting for this opportunity. But
Okay.
we'll see. I mean, maybe he's holding on to hope, and that's why he has the 3 resources to be able to send the max V and hopefully activation of Dash's ability to get a boom grenade off the top or some sort of equipment. But we see Enzo looking through the deck, trying to see, probably breathing a sigh of relief, also looking at all of the boom grenades just sitting there.
Yeah, I think from the side of Enzo, seeing the fact that
Cara, that was awesome. That was a great run of play-by-play right there, where you are providing context while doing it when there's nothing actively happening on the board. That is the role of play-by-play. We do dip in the way we dip into analysis is, of course, kind of exposing what has already happened in the game. I think we've talked about the boom grenades in the banish zone a little bit too much, but what you are providing is the ceiling on this turn cycle. There's still enough resources for a dash IO activation and the maximum velocity, and you're giving Jesse something to talk about before you throw back to him. Great.
Albert activated Tekla Foundry Heart so early in the turn and has thrown nothing but 0 costs at you. I think it's pretty realistic to expect the max V to come off the end of this turn. So I would not be surprised to just let this 0 to 60 hit and then shove all my 3 blocks in front of the max V and just say go next. I didn't really think that Enzo's hand looked particularly worth taking all this damage, and we kind of saw that when he immediately threw the Seek Vengeance in front of the first 0 for 60. So I think he's just going to block out this max V as best he can, go on to the next one, and hope he doesn't die to the next 4-card hand that Albert presents.
What I want to hear right now, Jesse, is lethal on the stack. And based on what I can see, no, not even if there is a boom grenade, though. I don't know if life totals are actually reflected based on the second 0 to 60 hitting there. I did remember the turn cycle. It was like T-Bone, block with Breeze Rider boots, take 2. That's why we're at 18. So that second 4, I don't think has been taken yet. So technically, if there's literally a red boom grenade on top of the deck, this could be lethal.
Right, and it's unfortunate when someone presents that max V and it's currently over half of your life total.
Yes.
Looks like he took some damage, or he did take the damage off of the 0 to 60. You are correct.
Is that a blue?
And is hopefully looking through what cards he wants to maybe keep, what cards he wants to block with. But I do agree with you, Jesse. I think a full block here is not a bad idea.
Yeah, especially with very minimal item setup for the most part for Albert, because we did see those 5 boom grenades hit the banish very early on. There's only one Cerebellum processor in play. There's no backup protocols. We already saw a couple of those get cycled through. So you're not really in danger of him getting back the max V. The thing where you're really in danger is if he just happens to naturally draw another 4-card max V hand.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, I think we saw 2 Spark of Geniuses, one in the Banish Zone, one has been used, 2 of those backup protocols that we were talking about, which means there is one still in the deck somewhere. So if he's not having an easy time naturally coming across the max fees, he could always try to buy this back.
Okay,
Technicals are
starting
having
to
a
have
think
an
here,
issue.
not really sure what he wants to do with this max V. Maybe there are a number of 2 blocks in his hand, and then he's still going to be taking some number of damage over the top of his hand.
Another instance to talk, Jesse, about, like, you've already made this point that Katsu needs the space in order to utilize Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. That's how he closes game. And Albert is definitely within kill range for a maximum power Katsu turn. But with each passing cycle, Katsu's losing the ability to have that super wide turn. And we can also kind of get into an Acilio conversation where, like, oh, well, the lower life total the opponent is, the less big your combo turn has to be. It doesn't need to be 4 Gone on a Flashes. It can only be 3, etc., etc. What I, again, want to avoid is talking about, let's see what they're going to do about this blocking decision, right? Empty calorie casting. Want to avoid that at all costs.
Oh, and we do just see a full block come out here.
And I think that is a good decision.
Wait, so do you see 2 damage come over the top?
Because...
So one of those was indeed a 2 block, only blocking for 8 total on the turn. Ticks up his tunic, passes back to Albert, and driver's seat is Dio.
Where's my play-by-play?
Is
this a technical, Jesse?
Another 0 to 60.
Yeah, I need to get another video from you guys, so I'm not constantly asking myself where the technical issues are coming in and out. It makes it really hard to give you guys critique that's actually valuable.
This one is a yellow, so still not quite a break. You're at that 3 damage, and looking through the rest of his card, I see 2 more 0-60s, I believe.
Wow, Albert is just seeing double this whole game. Might need to get his glasses checked. might need a judge to reshuffle because all the duplicates are just right next to each other this entire game.
P.S. How did your surgery
see another 0 to 60 come out as well? The first one blocked by a break tide from the side of Enzo.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like right now, I'm constantly wanting to say, "Hey, Cara, you need to step in here. You're dropping the ball." But if she can't see what's going on, obviously, I don't want to give her that note a million times.
And that's unfortunate because with Dash, so many of the cards are, at least when I was playing Dash IO, I look at them and I just think, oh, yeah, that's just a boost card. But then when you have all the same boost cards coming out, it's losing a little bit of flavor for the player. I'll send a 0 to 60. I guess I'll send another 0 to 60.
0 to
120,
that's
if you
illegal.
will.
Cute. Yeah, great.
And it looks like a Teklo core is coming out here.
Thank you.
Did not crank.
Can't crank Teklo.
Sorry, I think I also might be behind a little bit.
Yeah, also forget whether or not they cranked because already Katsu is throwing cards. We need to catch the viewers up to what is present.
I see. Yeah, so it was already past the turn back to Enzo. Enzo is led with an Edge of Autumn, followed into an Enact Vengeance. So really trying to threaten the arsenal here. Something interesting about the dichotomy between Katsu and Ira. Ira naturally gives the second attack +1, but for Katsu to essentially do the same thing, you have to activate these Okana Scar Wraps. And if your opponent has any defense reactions whatsoever, you could just lose your sword for the rest of the game.
Okay, cool. And then one of the other things we can harken back to is we've been talking to death the fact that Katsu needs this Mask of the Pouncing Lynx throughout the course of the game. And all of a sudden he's put together a 2-card hand that is meaningful in an aggro mirror. Maybe we can touch on the fact that Okana Scar Wraps, because it runs Edge of Autumn and turns on combo effects like Enact Vengeance, is maybe exactly why Enzo brought it into this matchup.
I'm trying to look hand of our Dash player.
Grim Feast in the card reader.
Looks like a zipper hit coming in. I believe that is a yellow.
I believe it is too, Cara.
Yes, it does.
You guys are going to have I'm glad you're practicing basically with training wheels on, because on the day you're going to be able to rely on your card reader a lot more, and obviously you'll have production support. So making it harder on yourselves now will, I don't know, it's going to make it feel like you took off Piccolo's weighted cape or whatever when you actually get
look yellow to me as well. So this should be coming in for 4.
So neither one of us are colorblind. That's great.
I hope not. Navy would have kicked me out years ago.
I will. I will say it's always sad when you have to send your cerebellum processor into the graveyard. I'm off the top of my head, I can't remember if he was really able to utilize it other than cranking and getting, another counter on the gun.
I don't think so. I don't think there was a single draw.
Were you able to see anything else that was in the hand of Albert?
I did see a Max V. I think this is going to be a really tough hand for him to pull off the Max V, though. I think there was a 2-cost boost attack in the hand. And not being able to get that extra card off the cerebellum processor, like you said, I think this is going to be a really tough ask to send Max V here. But you really have to threaten Katsu's life total here. because you did just take 7. You lost your arsenal. You lost a little bit of tempo. It's now 13 plays 14, and Katsu still has all of their armor up, ready and waiting to pop off on the combo.
Little too much radio silence here. That was definitely a throw to Cara. And Cara, even if the board state has been established, it is okay to come back to it. The other thing that you can do in this situation where a player is tanking on blocks is you can very quickly snap zoom back out to level 3. You can say yellow zipper hit on the combat chain, seemingly an innocuous attack, but so much hangs in the balance here at the French National Championship in round 3. Both of these players clinging to X and O and finding themselves in an aggro mirror that can be over in the flash of a pan. You know, that kind of thing. It's okay to, at that point, also slow down your cadence, maybe even bring it down a little bit lower to kind of give the moment a little more gravitas, less intensity, because obviously your audience is not stupid. They don't see anything actively happening. But it's okay. My main point is that it's okay to reestablish the board state, because that tells your audience member something as well, that nothing is going on, and also that apparently this is a meaningful blocking decision for Katsu. At which point, Jesse, you can jump in and say maybe perhaps it's a somewhat lackluster hand for Katsu, or they're thinking, man, if I commit a card now, am I priced into blocking for the remainder of this turn no matter what it is?
And I will say for the dash, that is really something that if she starts to lose tempo, if you are the opposing player, you have to attack. That is your time to be able to bring her into a life total that's low enough. And especially when you're playing as Katsu, and just keep swinging at bottom, those lower value attacks. If they have to give a card for every time that you attack, that's not a bad deal, especially when you're getting to these life totals, 14 play 13 at this time.
Okay, we got our first life total
Enzo
update
just take
from
the zipper
Cara.
hit here,
Nice.
falling down to 10, and it does seem like Albert gestured towards a Tekla Foundry activation, flips over a zipper hit and another maximum velocity, going up to 2 resources, and then deploying another 0 for 60, boosting a Pulse Wave Harpoon.
Forgo again on the combat chain. Give me my powers.
I believe that means that there will only be one Max V left in the deck for Albert, correct?
Yes, because it's currently in his hand right now. We saw the first one. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apologies, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, it's okay. He's been shuffling the cards back and.
So, Cara, I think you're just a little flustered by the technical issues. Honestly, I almost want to just go to the end of this game and get to the last one so I can give you more useful stuff. But if that is not at issue for you, your co-caster did mention it earlier on, I believe in the turn cycle, or it was when the Katsu drew up and started doing something. So try to lean on your co-caster when you can and retain the information that they give you. It's important that in a two-way conversation, we're doing just as much listening as we are talking. It's a more difficult thing to do in a setting you're uncomfortable with, like being in the booth for the first time, but it is important that you listen to the person that's supporting you, because they'll give you the answers if you allow them to. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and, no offense, guys, I'm going to proceed to the end here. I want to see how this game finishes. Honestly, I don't feel comfortable anymore critiquing the rest of this because technical issues are making it so I don't know if I'm giving you good feedback or not. So we're just going to go to the end here.
And you know what? If it was a very fun game to watch regardless. Blocking with 2 cards from hand.
Okay. We do see the Tekla Foundry activation here.
Katsu circles the toilet.
Make $2. Max V.
And that's all she wrote, Jesse.
That's all she wrote.
You are correct. It looks like putting the 1 card remaining, saying, no, wait, I can block some of that. No. Yep. And that is the hard thing playing again.
Okay, cool. Same note here. Because roles have been discussed beforehand, this is an instance where, Jesse, you got to get out of the way. Cara, you got to make your money. and get in there. When we know that the game is coming to an end, I'm assuming that's that same max V that was in Albert's hand the turn cycle like 7 minutes ago in the VOD. And so this is something that should be telegraphed. We should know that this is coming. So you can, ride Six Flags Goliath up to the top and then really give me something for the big roller coaster drop as the players extend the fist bump and the winner is declared. Once Cara runs out of breath, then Jesse comes in to give us the broader context of how that game went the way that it did. Cool. So, hi, French casters. Sorry I can't give you a little bit more, but give me one without technical issues and we can go a little bit further. Great. Okay, moving on to Cara and Ka.
And we're back for round 3.
May not be able to get all the way through this one.
This time, Dylan Ford on the left side playing
longer
Dash
game, and
IO
it's getting close to Bryce's
June
nighttime.
Let's do this on Vincent Iron Maiden on the right. It seems like June has won the die roll here and has chose to go first, which makes sense to me. Vincent, a deck that generally looks to set up. Cara, how do you think this matchup usually plays out? I think that
Arena
this
Poner
has
361 since this
happened
match
before
went so
at
hard.
Montreal, where June played against Connor Bryant on Dio in the finals and lost. Do you think that is representative of how this matchup normally goes?
Nice, Ka.
I think that this is a interesting matchup because Dash has the opportunity to really be full aggro. The only issue is if she ever takes a backseat.
Ka, are you still in chat? Can you let me know if you are? Let me know who's on play-by-play and who's on color. Right now, it feels like you are since you brought us back from break. My note is going to be the same for the other two. Give me something other than welcome back, because that's going to feel very stale very quickly when we use it over and over again at the Battleground.
For one turn to try to set up, June is really going to have to punish Dylan for that. And we all know, and we've seen June very...
And one of the other things I really want you to, that you did very well, that I want you to lean on at the Battleground is giving the broader context for the history of all these players, which should be fairly easy since they're all going to be part of your local scene.
Successful before on Vincent. This is kind of a favorite deck of hers. I remember when I first started playing Flesh and Blood, my first Road to Nats, I actually played against her.
Careful with those water bottles.
This is going to be something to watch. Absolutely.
But speaking of which,
yeah. So with June going first here on Vincent, probably looking up to set up some of those rune chants and rune gates in the banish early, as I would imagine that Dylan is probably looking to get out the gate swinging with those boost attacks and those cranked items. Try to take advantage of the kind of setup turns that Vincent requires in order to start really making anything happen. Do you think that Dash.io has enough power to get there before June finishes?
Okay, that was a cute throw because we're on the hero page. Ka's trying to find an organic way in order to get over to the Dash.io card. Definitely seems like Cara has the experience on Dash.io based on the way she was talking about her in the last match with Jesse. Nice way to show your co-caster that you understand their not pain points, passion points, shall we say. And that's something we always want to feature with our co-caster. Highlight their strengths, don't beleaguer their weaknesses.
Setting up, or...
It really depends on the luck of the draw for June and how she has set up, I think, her deck. Because Dash has the opportunity to, play all of those boost cards. You're hoping to get through for a max V. You can use the chest piece to really keep digging through your deck. But all Vincent really has to do is be able to set up rune chants on the front end of attacks and rune chants on the back end so that she would be able to keep on playing those cards out of Rune Gate. And so let's see if she has anything in.
Ka says that he was on play-by-play because he felt both players felt that Cara had more knowledge about the heroes. I would encourage you to try out both roles, irregardless of who has more particular prowess with the hero.
Interesting in the hand to start.
Yeah, I think that Vincent...
This is the goal.
Yeah, Vincents are generally looking for something like a Malefic incantation or two to set up on turn 0. Maybe find like a Cull or a Deathly Wail to set up and establish in their banish. So we'll see if June finds any of that here. Looks like
Already has a call in hand.
has the call in hand. Looks like a
I do think there's a oft used flow where we like Ponkish and Sam were clearly doing based on the zoom movements at the beginning of this game to use the equipment to set the stage. See if they can tell us anything interesting about the particular builds that these players are bringing. Now, Vincent and Dash.io are not going to have a crazy amount of play, I wouldn't think, by and large, especially because Dash.io already has that built-in Arcane Barrier 1 that already works with her game plan pretty darn well. One of the things we want to look at on the Vincent side of the board is, of course, Vex and Quillhand versus Grasp of the Arknight. But even addressing the equipment loadout and saying nothing too crazy to point out here, both of these players, it also helps provide the context that neither of these players are bringing anything specific in regards to tech for the other. So could point to the fact that they're both just trying to enact their game plan before the opponent can do the same.
lining up perhaps a Deathly Wail for Banish as well. Shadow Puppetry in hand.
And I would say even on this turn, starting with putting... Did she put a card in Banished yet?
Yep, looks like this
There goes.
Deathly Wail in red going
There you
straight
go.
to the Banish for a rune chant here.
So regardless of what June is setting up, being able to keep a call either in Arsenal, being able to put it in the Banished zone, anytime someone takes damage, being able to use that as a piece of disruption is absolutely necessary for this deck. And it looks like she is already popping the Grimoire to create a second rune chant.
Yeah, that second rune chant probably pretty important if this Deathly Wail is the first attack that's going to be coming out of Banish for June, because it means that on her next turn she'll have to banish another card from hand and create one more rune chant to fulfill that Runegate 3 condition. But for now, it looks like arsenaling the Shadow Puppetry and passing the turn back over to Dylan on his first affirmative turn of the game. No items found off the top of the deck.
Okay, that was a super clean back and forth, honestly. I have very little to critique there, except at the end of the turn, Ka, I do want you to mention the blood debt damage that Vincent took. That's some context that we need to use to preside over the entirety of the game, because of course Dylan can get June into a situation where she's dying to herself rather than dying to what Dash.io is doing, even if she's like blocking out every turn. So quick mention of blood debt is great, and you can even mention that it's not uncommon for Vincent to take blood debt, especially in that first turn of the game, because oftentimes she's just trying to set up on turn 0. Either that, or you can go ahead and use that as an opportunity to say, okay, what role is blood debt going to play when it comes to these two heroes facing off? And that's something you can set your color up to answer
During June's first turn. But it looks like a boom grenade from the hand for Dylan here. Not exactly where you want to see those cards. Usually Dash wants to cheat those out in reactions and kind of confirm damage with them off the top of the deck. Get those free action points by not cranking it as well. But lines up pretty okay here with this Fast and Furious, since an item has been cranked this turn, going to come in for 4 go again, threatening that boom grenade on hit as well.
Now, is that a yellow or a red boom grenade?
I think it's a red one.
Those are very nice. Like you said, it's unfortunate to not be able to pull it off the top of the deck using Dash's.
Yeah, Cara, go ahead and discard the discussion about the color. If you like, I will say it's going to be a lot easier for you to tell the colors apart. So hopefully it's an issue that fixes itself. That is when you're on the ground at the Battleground. It's going to be a lot easier to see those colors. We'll have high res feeds for you and everything. But even if you can't quite make it out, I would just let it go, honestly. You're about to make a really good point about the boom grenade. Yeah, it's rough that it's in the hand instead, but you're still going to be pressuring the hand of June in a big, big way, and also perhaps the equipment that you have to chew through anyway. So, just go straight to that point rather than worrying about the color of the boom grenade.
But it does mean that eventually, if we get to a point where we're kind of stalling, he can kind of, try to pop something else off later. I will say back on June's turn, something we should pay attention to is that blood debt, and that with any Vincent player is something that can really do you in, even if you look like you're having a very good start to the game.
Nice. So we eventually got there.
About what she's going to be blocking with here.
Yeah, the mention of the blood debt is a very important part of this matchup, I believe, because you can only really afford to do so much of the Dash IO's work for them. You know, you can don't want to be taking too much damage off of that. And having used the Grimoire of Felling Song on turn 0 means that June has less on-board runechant generation. Only this Vexing Quill Hand left to kind of bail her out of a sticky situation. But looks like no blocks on this Fast and Furious, so 8 damage coming across, 4 from...
I feel like that's something that could get a little bit more intensity. And I know you mentioned that one of your pain points alongside Jesse is feeling like you're coming across as boring. And again, without emphatically emoting, you can just increase the cadence of your speaking and even the volume just a little bit, and that'll go a long way in conveying the import of the moment.
From the attack itself, and then 4 from the boom grenade. Dylan, unhappy with the top of the deck. Looks like we're pitching a blue into Teklo Foundry Heart, banishing top 2 cards of deck to generate 2 more resources.
Or he's just digging for an item.
He's going to be floating 4 resources here, but with only 1 card left in hand. Not too sure what he's going to do with it.
Well, and it makes you wonder what June has in her hands if she's taking all of that damage, not even trying to block the original
Cara.
4. Maybe she's setting up for something bigger. Coming in with a zipper hit right now for 5 go again.
And I think, Cara, that was an opportunity for you as the Dash.io expert to... I think Call was doing something pretty astute as a play-by-play. He's asking a question. Whether... I will often ask questions like that I know the answers to, but that's not always the case. Sometimes I will literally lean on the expert in the room. I do think that the play-by-play, their role is kind of being the voice of the audience in a certain way, because a layperson is looking at a Dash.io with 4 floating resources who doesn't even have a max fee to play and is probably thinking like, what are they even going for? And oftentimes I think the answer is they're just looking for an item to play off the top if they haven't activated Dash.io, especially in a match like this that they could expect to be going faster rather than slower based on the fact that June took so much damage, right?
Yeah, the zipper hit for 5.
Yo, what's up,
Put a
Hemel?
lot of pressure
Thanks for hanging
on
out, dude.
June's life total here.
Yeah, we're throwing hands.
Dylan already finding some very powerful attacks and lining up that boom grenade quite nicely with a no block declaration from June here. No blocks on the zipper hit as well. Already down to 26, and Symbiosis Shot just going to come in and sneak in that extra 2 while it seems like June is uninterested in blocking.
We're throwing hands and we are guzzling glizzies, my friend.
Say, end of turn 1, life totals are already 36, plays 24.
Yeah.
Arena Poner 361 says, should casters call matches with the idea that there are people who are seeing their first flesh and blood match? That's a great question. It's often debated, Arena Poner. For my money, I think that anybody that is tuning into, you do have to take into context the tournament that you're casting. For example, if I'm casting U.S. Nationals, I'm not 100% of the time going to cast to the least proficient person in the room. That can get exhausting both for me and for everybody at home, right? Generally speaking, I think if somebody is tuning in to the highest tier of Flesh and Blood, what they're expecting is somebody that knows the game to be telling them what is going on. And you just can't read every single card from top to bottom. What you want to do is provide the cliff notes, why each of these things is important in order to, allow your audience to piece together the story. I do think it's beneficial both to you and the audience to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they will put the pieces together. Because if you don't do that consistently enough, you end up alienating the majority of the room, I would say. It's going to be the people that are seeing their first game of Flesh and Blood watching U.S. Nationals are going to be far and away the minority.
In her hand, I'm wondering what else she may have playing out, or putting the call, I apologize, into the banished zone.
Yeah, I kind of imagine that June is looking to play this shadow puppetry, activate Vincent here. Yep. But that'll
Wonderful.
generate 2 rune chants from the Deathly Whale now, since both players will have forcibly lost life this turn. But I don't know where
Justin, don't act like you
she
don't
goes
guzzle
from
glizzies every
there.
night.
Because we can see a widespread ruin in the hand, but not banishing it means that she can't gate it out.
Well, in playing this deck before, sometimes you get to a point where you realize, wow, I might just have to pay for this and try to get it out of my hand so I can
Nice,
start
Cara.
fresh. But coming in for 7 right now, thanks to that shadow puppetry with Go again on her Deathly Whale.
Yeah, good setup by Ka for Cara to knock that one out of the park. Yes, it is often the case that Vincent wants to pay for some of these attacks. That is a normal play pattern.
And with the Vincent activation, one of these rune chants is absolutely going to hit, which means that cull is going to be online.
Hold on. Ka asks, sorry to round it back a bit, but do you think that asking too many questions is possible? I kind of thought we'd generally rather throw it back and forth. Questions feel a little clunkier. You can definitely overuse questions. I would 100% agree with that. But there are ways to ask questions without actually using a question mark. So, for example, one of the ways I feel like did that admirably earlier was by bringing up the over flooding of resources by that -io. Actually, I can't remember if you asked what are they going to play with that, or there's a way to do that, saying the play-by-play caster, for example, in that case, saying it's an activation of Teklo Foundry Heart, going up to 4 total resources, but with 1 card in hand, there's nothing in the -io deck that is going to completely expend all of these resources. To which the color commentator can respond, well, there is always the possibility that Dylan Ford just wants to find an item on the top of the deck that will sink just a little bit of those resources, but more importantly, get the board state game plan going to keep pace with June Lex Studis, right? That kind of a thing. So you can ask questions with statements. The objective for you is, as the play-by-play caster, is always to be setting up your co-caster, your analyst, your color, to hit home runs, right? The way you do that, the way you vary the way you do that is the way you establish your usefulness as a play-by-play caster.
Yeah, Go again, as well as on hit, June gets to look at the top card of the deck and choose whether or not she would like to banish it. So perhaps hoping to find another Runegate attack off the top. Although something else that I just realized is that since players have lost life this turn, that call in Banish is playable at instant speed. So she could just play that call right out of Banish and banish the widespread rune out of her own hand, since it requires both players to banish a card. So
Nice call.
that would allow her to then play it from Banish with the 2 rune chants from this Deathly Whale, if she
Good catch, brother.
And Dylan Ford not declaring any blocks, going down to 26 against June's 23 on
Destructor
that
713, I can make that
June
happen.
giving a good think, it looks like, as to what she is going to do next.
Yeah, I imagine that the top of the deck here probably...
How's that feel?
Quite the puzzle to make use of for June, especially with that call and banish and still 3 cards in hand.
Really considering the top of that deck.
I've seen her play before. She does have a very interesting way of getting herself out of tricky situations. Looks like putting an eloquent eulogy into the banished zone.
I'm sorry, Cara, I didn't laud you for it at the beginning, but I think both of you are showcasing how you can leverage knowledge about a player. For those of you that didn't hear it, because I think I was talking over it, Cara mentioned that she has played with June and had like a personal experience with her where she, I don't know, did 1 billion damage to her with Vincent or whatever. So bringing this into the fore is really nice.
Yeah, Eulogy, a very nice Runegate attack to have in Banish where it only costs 1. So just the Vincent hero ability by itself kind of makes that a live card to play. But in a situation like this one, I wonder...
Yeah, Ka says, makes sense. Straight up asking a question seems very in-your-face way to throw to the other caster. Probably best saved for genuine uncertainty. Other times, we could just let them pick up. I would just caution you away from any hard and fast rules. Like, questions are only for uncertainty. I just think everything works better in a world of gray. While that makes things perhaps a little bit more uncertain, our objective is to remain organic, right? And so as long as we are varying and as long as we are appreciating everything, wow, what is the way I'm trying to, everything in, oh, I forget the phrase. That's going to bother me.
If that might be too much.
What I'm trying to say is as long as you're
such an aggressive
varying the
deck
way you're
like
doing it,
Dio.
keeping it fresh, that's the way to be.
That is definitely a concern. So we see a widespread annihilation in the hand.
Oh. Widespread annihilation onto the
Yep.
combat chain. All right.
There we go. And that was what I was talking about. Sometimes you
Yes,
just need
Cara,
to pick
nice.
to get things out of the way. Now coming in for 6, and they have lost life already, which means that Dylan
Yes, everything in moderation. Thank you for the love of Christ. I don't know why I couldn't come up with
is
that.
going to be banishing a card from hand. No, actually, he's just going to banish a card from hand anyway.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because widespread annihilation.
Damage notwithstanding.
Yeah, when the combat chain closes, each hero who's lost life this turn banishes a card from hand. Dylan already having.
And Cara, something that you set up really well there is you said June has interesting ways of getting herself out of seemingly weird situations. And there you go. She set up a 4-card hand that ended up resolving a widespread annihilation the old-fashioned way. And she's going to have 2 rune chants on the back when all is said and done. Shows her prowess on this hero.
And lost plenty of life this turn from that Deathly Wail and those rune chants from earlier. So going to be forced to banish at least 1 card from hand no matter how this widespread annihilation happens. And perhaps June will make use of that cull in banish as well. Just stripping 2 cards out of Dylan without asking, kind of.
Without gaining permission. Indeed.
Yeah,
All right, what's going on?
Walking with the Cogworks armor.
There we go.
Yeah, Tinker Ring's getting in front of this widespread annihilation, covering 2. So Dylan taking 4 here. And once June closes that combat chain, will be forced to banish a card from hand. I think that kind of makes sense where you still have 4 whole cards in hand. I'm sure that Dylan has plenty of gas left in the tank to mount something offensive. But yeah, out of the banish comes that cull, forcing a 2nd card away from Dylan.
Okay. Right here. Actually, let me see if Cara picks this up.
And
That's
that was one of the
definitely-
boost cards as well. Not a bad turn for June.
Cara, you're in the color seat right now. What are the broader implications of what June has just done? Obviously, it was a pretty dang good turn based on the way you guys have been reacting. But what are Vincett's pain points when it comes to Dash.io? And how has June upset that dynamic with the turn that she just put together? Why is it so important to be disrupting Dash.io rather than just sending damage? And why does what she just did indicate to us why she was willing to take so much freaking damage on the previous turn cycle? The guy's only got 2 cards left in hand.
And only taking 1 blood debt at the end of this turn with enough rune chance to be able to play out that eloquent eulogy on her next turn.
Yeah, very cleanly piloted turn out of June here, evening up the life totals. And
VStructor713 asks, what's your prep strategy for preamble on a matchup or things to be bringing up throughout the match? Do you have notes, general familiarity on all heroes, or just make some notes when you know the next matchup on stream? Honestly, on the day, I take very few notes. It works for some people. For me, the only notes I will usually take is when I know that somebody is about to start a pitch stack and I want to keep track of it. Those are usually the only notes I'll take, and I think that's important because, specifically for the play-by-play caster, you have to remain so in the moment. The second your mind is drifting to other things, you're not doing your job. At least that's what works best for me. I would say just being a student of the game in general helps you do that. Remembering niche interactions that have caught you off guard or your opponent is super important. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for that. My prep is just to consistently and constantly be doing it. The more reps I have, the more I can rely on my brain to kind of take the wheel. And I do think that's when I'm doing my best. So all of it comes in in general prep of loving the game, watching a lot of coverage, doing a lot of casts.
And also forcing 2 cards from Dylan means that there is a
staying up to date on things like Arsenal Pass and other theory podcasts that give you a lot of general in-game knowledge.
very good chance that June has found herself in a commanding position in this game all of a sudden. So we've got a Sprocket Rocket here coming in for 3 go again, since it did not boost an item here. And I think that last card in hand is just a Spark of Genius for Dylan. So this turn might be more of a setup one here.
Blocking with, I believe, a yellow Deathly Whale. And using that Spark of Genius, I don't know if he would want to arsenal that now so that he can try to get go again. Nope. He's going to do it here. I wonder what he is going to grab.
I wonder what he's going to grab. That's another one of those empty calorie things that I never want us mentioning.
The cerebellum processor whenever I'm able to play Dash.
Yeah, there you go. See, you got there. Go ahead and venture that guess straight away, Cara. That'll come with time and with confidence, but the less we say I wonder, and the more we just freaking go for it, the better. You are expected to be the expert in the room, even if that's not actually the case. And it's okay to assume that role. It's also okay to be wrong, because, you know, if Dylan goes and finds something that you weren't expecting, maybe you two think about the matchup a little bit differently. That's okay. You are going to have to cast games that feature players that don't think about the game the same way you do. But, you know, when it's about the way that you accept and pivot when you're wrong rather than whether you're right all the time. Because nobody is. That's just not the way it is. Encouraging you to go for
Genius,
it.
A very powerful card for this Dash.io deck, allowing you to tutor up effectively any item out of your deck. So Dylan going to be rich with choices here. Anything from like Boom Grenade or Cerebellum Processor,
Nice
like
call.
you've mentioned.
Instructor follows up. And for
like
Colorcaster, what prep
here,
should they be doing to know the matchups between the two
front.
heroes? The main things I want to be able to lean on as a play-by-play from my Colorcaster, I want to know whose match it is to win and whose match it is to lose. That is to say, who do we expect to win in the matchup? I want you to know key cards. Like in that preamble, when we have the 2 hero cards up, I want to know like a couple key cards to look out for. Key cards or key interactions that are part of each hero's game plan. I want to know the success states and the fail states of either hero as well. In this case, Dylan's fail state is probably June fighting a lot of disruption. June's fail state is something like not being able to both meaningfully set up disruption affirmatively on her turn and also set the board up for the future. 2 things that she flew in the face of on that first turn, right? She offered meaningful disruption, also an on-hit to be considered. Not that Dash.io is probably ever going to really care about a shadow puppetry. She set up 2 rune chants and also disrupted 2 cards out of the hand. So everything's going right for June at the moment. Dylan is, you know, still kind of keeping pace. And with that as our backdrop, we can paint the rest of this game as it allows us to create a bunch of plot points across the way, right? We're trying to tell a story from beginning to end. And without some backstory that we can all agree on, it's much harder to do that. Hope that makes sense.
Goes past it though. Perhaps maybe considering a Teklo core to set up.
Jesse says message redacted.
No processor.
All right, and it is the cerebellum processor.
So this is
especially if you're able to get. Oh, I apologize. If you're able to get to a max V using the cerebellum processor to be able to draw hopefully a boost card and be able to go a little bit further to be able to play that is important in Dash. That is the thing that I have found most useful for trying to close out games.
Great. Don't apologize there, Cara. That was a great time for you to jump in. The only thing I will say is like, yeah, maybe Ka should have said the name of the card as it hit the arena, but overall, yeah, that's your place to go. Don't worry about eating up airtime with pleasantries. One of the things I always have to beat out of people is feeling the need to affirm whatever your co-caster said before you start talking. A case would be, and Cerebellum Processor hits the arena from Spark of Genius. Cara would then start by saying, yeah, and no need for that. The general assumption is that you agree with your co-caster. That's why you're in the booth together. There's a general air of assumed chemistry, I guess, in that regard. Our airtime is just so precious. Save it for the things that are actually meaningful to the game state or add value in terms of entertainment to the audience.
Yeah, we did see Max V's present in
God just did it.
as he was fanning
Don't do
through
that.
looking for an item. So going to draw a card off the top and a yellow boom grenade drawn from that Spark of Genius, but does still have one more action point. So could consider just arsenaling this boom grenade or perhaps just playing it and not cranking it to develop it for next turn. I feel like
What are the
arsenaling
considerations there,
might be
Cara?
a bit scary against a deck like Vincent where they have things like those.
Yeah, so that was a fumbled throw, right? Ka set up a good question without actually using a question mark. Is he going to arsenal or is he going to play that boom grenade out? Cara, that's your opportunity as an analyst to go ahead and take up that mantle and talk not necessarily about what he's going to do, but instead the two considerations that are before him.
Widespread destructions.
The Gamer 101X says, hey, what's up?
But
I don't know. What's up with you?
Dylan deciding that shooting off that symbiosis shot might be more worthwhile. June not blocking it. Taking 2 down to 20 now as Dylan arsenals that yellow boom grenade and draws back up.
And let's see, is that a widespread?
Yeah, that's widespread.
Cannot see a.
That's widespread ruin going to the vanish there.
Beautiful. And finally, a Malefic Incantation coming onto the board for June.
Finally. Why finally? Why finally?
Deceptively powerful for Vincent. Being able to create rune chants on the back after declaring attacks just helps you set up that much better for your next turn. So we can see 3 rune chants coming in with this widespread ruin out of the banish being gated out, but Malefic Incantation ticking down and creating 1 rune chant in the back. So June going to have a plethora of rune chants and a variety of options available in terms of gates once she draws back up.
And this is not a bad situation for Dylan to be in against a Vincent. Being able to look at the top card of your deck and thinking, am I able to lose this? Is this something I'm going to want to use my dash activation on? Is this something that I can get rid of, hoping to go a little deeper into my deck? It might not be a bad option just to block 4 here, if possible.
Nice, Cara. Good call.
Yeah, we have to move to the rune chants first, but looks like Crown of Providence going to put that grenade down to the bottom. Dylan taking 4 off of that attack. All right, yeah, looks like the rune chants were also all part of the plan here for Dylan, willing to accept all of the damage after Crown of Providence.
Cool, gracious. Maybe like a second or a second and a half, a little bit too much confusion about the rune chants. They're going to be taken at some point. Yes, it is a little bit of shortcutting, but you can hit that and move on directly into your next point. I really want to know, as the audience member, is this a good Vincent turn, or is this affording Dylan the space that he needs to get back into this game?
Covers up 2. Down to 15 now to June's 20. Card banished off the top is a red boom grenade. Dang. Items.
Not what you want to see.
Why?
Items.
Why? Why is this something that we do not want to see? Right now, that was about a second and a half of just like guttural reaction. I want context for the people that aren't glued to the screen, or even the newer players that are watching this and going, huh? We don't need to leave them in suspense for that long. Get right to it.
On top of the deck at the right times for Dylan. Would have much preferred that to have come up during an unblocked attack, but perhaps better to lose a red boom grenade than something like a red 0 to 60. from the top of your deck.
And I think part of the discomfort there was Koff felt like he was kind of by emoting, throwing to color. Maybe I'm putting myself in Ka's seat a little bit too much, but yeah, I immediately want to know the why. And if one of you is just emoting, even though I'm telling you not to do that, the other needs to immediately provide the context to the reaction. Because the reaction doesn't do it well enough.
Randomly, especially when your hand contains something like maximum velocity, like we can see in Dylan's right now.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have enough boost attacks to make this work?
I am not positive. Because you need 3 to be able to send that big 10 attack. We'll see what he's able to do. If he's able to gain the action point on the... Here we go. I was going to say on the cerebellum processor to try to draw a second card, maybe another boost card if at all possible.
Good. All of that was great context. The only thing I want to caution you away from is we'll see what he can do here, right? Because you had intelligent things to talk about, but just a little bit of, I've been calling it empty calorie casting. Let's also ascribe something like verbal garbage to it, seeped in.
Speaking of action points, Dylan finding another cerebellum processor off the top of the deck, going to crank it and generate a second action point. So we'll be able to make use of most of the cards in his hand, I assume, with that boost ability that Mechanologist is famed for, but also going to be able to, like we see here, tapping the cerebellum processor as an action to draw a card. So now back to only 1 action point, but does have still 5 cards in hand and a resource floating. Resource immediately going to be turned into an outpace here. Coming in for
Nice
a 4
call.
go again, presumably boosted. And June is not going to be able to use any equipment to block out this one.
Now, we know that he has a max V in hand. June does not. And this can be a very tricky situation where most of these boost cards are 3-4 points of damage, ending with the big culmination of that 10 points of damage. This is not a great life total to be going against that, unless she starts deciding to block with these cards that she has in hand.
Yeah,
but she does have good defensive pieces there. We just saw reduced to Rune Chant, right?
Deciding to block is indeed the move for June here. Going to deploy a Sink Below out of Arsenal.
And she's also got one of the most fearsome blocking equipments in the game in Face Purgatory. We should be touching on that.
Bottoming a card to hopefully find something better at blocking, I would assume here. So this 4 fully covered up, but the turn's not over yet as Dylan closes the combat chain, likely to activate that Teklo Foundry Heart here. Yep, pitch the Teklo Core. Going to banish top 2 cards of the deck. A Heist and a Fast and Furious going to the banish to generate a total of 4 resources after pitching that blue. So Dylan definitely has the resources to make it work out if he's got, just 2 more 1-cost boosts in hand alongside that max V. Could be a very dangerous turn for June here.
Let's see what he's playing out.
Oh, Throttle. All right, so we've got the 2-cost boost attack coming out here. 6 go again.
Okay, that was another moment that we could have taken a break for analysis. And even if we had that pregnant pause before we were waiting for the next attack there, Cara, we could be talking about the damage ceiling on this turn. And if you start your point and a piece of cardboard hits the table, even though it's not your purview, go ahead and mention its name and pick up the play-by-play just for a moment before you get right back into the analysis.
So 2 cards left in hand. If one of them's a max V, is going to need to get a 0-cost boost involved. But
Jesse says, I definitely feel like this is the most well-rounded game presented tonight, so it gives me something to work towards. I didn't realize I had quite so much emoting verbal garbage comparatively. Don't beat yourself up about it, man, but I do agree. I do think this is so far the cleanest pairing that I've seen.
Allows the player to draw a card and the opposing player to discard. So June perhaps feeling the threat of this maximum velocity going
I agree, and
to
unfortunately, he did.
Agreed,
discard
Justin.
a
This is
zipper
exactly
hit,
why
which was
we
the
start
third boost
with
card that he would have needed
equipment
to be
presentation
able to play
as
that max
the
fee.
context
So now sitting
for
here with a max fee,
the
he
game.
can't play, and 2 resources.
Probably the
he
first
really
point that
cannot use.
I'll often bring up when we get all the way down into
the
level
2
1.
resources that he had floating would not have been able to pay for the zipper hit as well as the max fee anyway.
Oh,
So
right.
perhaps not the worst outcome for Dylan, but looks like Achilles Accelerator going to be popped here. So generating 1 action point since Dylan has boosted this turn. Going to draw a card off the Cerebellum Processor. Perhaps Dylan has found a 0-cost boost off the top. And yeah, it is. That is the Trebuchet coming out here for 1 go again. Going to make the next attack boosted this combat chain get +2, but with no more boost cards in hand, I don't know how much Dylan cares about that. But the important part is that it is the 3rd boost attack this turn to line up this maximum velocity out of hand.
Great.
Why take +2 when you can just send an attack for 10?
Oh, and that is one of the best feelings when you think, maybe I can't send it this turn, and then the tables turn in your favor, and you were able to send out that max fee, because it never feels good to be hit with a max fee.
Anthony, sorry I missed
being able
practice.
to look at the top card of your deck
Trying to help
is
out our
incredibly
friends
powerful
over in New
ability,
England.
especially when you have cards like Cerebellum Processor on the field that just let you draw cards. Dylan here making a very risky play, losing that Achilles Accelerator. Down to AB0 now, so not
there
going to
we
be able
go.
to block any of those rune chants that June is sending. But
yeah, Ka, that was great. I was waiting for when that was going to come around, and I don't think it was a second too late. That was a perfect time to bring it up. Immediately when it was popped, I had the thought of, okay, we got to be cognizant of AB0 here, but I think you did a very good job of delaying that point until the play-by-play slowed down. You're constantly trying to assess what is the most important thing to direct my audience to, and because you have plenty of space before June is finally going to send another Rune Gate attack with some Rune Chants, you can delay that point until everything kind of slows back down. Really, really nice job on play-by-play. I think I'm willing to say that you're the most comfortable person in the seat, at least based on what I have seen so far tonight.
Perhaps deciding that sending this maximum velocity here is worth the risk.
What the hell? Anthony, I am not a Ziggy Forcer. I'm anything but.
Reduced to Rune Chant, creating another Rune Chant for herself. I will say one of the hardest things as a former Dash player myself is you got to make sure that you don't check the top card of your deck when you're playing
it's fake news.
Let's say, Dorinthia instead.
Oh, speaking from experience there.
Yeah, fun fact, Jesse.
Sometimes.
Patrick Warburton voiced Ziggy.
Deathly Whale in the blue going to enter the banish for June at the start of the turn here. So 3 Rune Chants and that Deathly Whale means that she can at least fire out.
I'm sorry, I got derailed.
Look at the top card of your deck.
Patrick Warburton got in my head.
Incredibly powerful ability, especially when you have cards like Cerebellum Processor on the field that just let you draw cards. Dylan here making a very risky play, losing that Achilles Accelerator.
Oh yeah,
to AB0,
Patrick Warburton
so
is definitely my dad.
Block any of those Rune Chants that June is sending, but perhaps deciding that sending this maximum velocity here is worth the risk.
June blocking with a reduced to Rune Chant, creating another Rune Chant for herself. I will say one of the hardest things as a former Dash player myself is you got to make sure that you don't check the top card of your deck when you're playing as, let's say, Dorinthia instead.
Oh, speaking from experience there.
The muscle memory is difficult sometimes.
I could only imagine. Deathly Whale in the blue going
Great.
to enter the banish for
Great.
June at the start.
I don't know if I 100% agree with the quip there, because I don't 100% feel like it was, relevant to what was going on. But what I really liked about the way you did that, Cara, was you found the perfect window of opportunity. You got in there, you got out before the next thing happened in play-by-play. So I would say timing is harder to figure out than the jokes themselves. So well done.
For the turn here, so 3 Rune Chants and that Deathly Whale means that she can at least fire out another Rune Gate here. So going to keep that pressure on Dylan, especially without that Arcane Barrier from the Achilles Accelerator anymore. All 3 of these Rune Chants are effectively unpreventable damage at this point.
Get in there, Cara.
June's Rune Chants That was the first thing I noticed.
Okay. If we're going to be talking about the hand-drawn rune chance, that's fantastic. We should probably be talking about it towards the beginning of the game when the stakes aren't quite so high. What I want from my analyst right now is, what is June's position right now? She's sending a blue Deathly Will. Obviously, we'd rather be sending red attacks, but what is she doing that is particularly good going into the next turn cycle? And how's she faring after taking not the full, but like pretty big brunt of Dylan's offense? I mean, a max fee just got resolved. She's still at 12. For my money, I really like her chances, and I'd rather be talking about that than the hand-drawn rune chance right now.
Is that like a little cat on the bottom over there?
It's
But
all
since we're on
cats.
it, yeah,
Every
go for
rune
it, Kyle.
chant that she has is there's somewhere a cat.
Meow.
I've not noticed that, honestly. I'm usually too focused on the gaping maws and other various inhuman features on the attacks coming at me for big number.
Good, Kyle. You have good instincts.
Looks like Dylan here
Now,
also
Dylan took.
thinking about it here. Took the 3 rune chance as he didn't have much other choice, but going to put that Tekla Foundry Heart to use, blocking out 2 damage from that Deathly Whale. So not a very powerful offensive turn for June here, but setting up those 2 rune chants means that this next turn might go a lot smoother.
Yeah, so yeah, something you did very well, Ka, at the end of that turn is kind of declare a winner of each turn cycle. That's something that I think helps constantly reaffirm the context of the game for viewers that otherwise might not know it, or even ones that could perhaps debate you on that fact. And that is one of the things that color and play-by-play can get into. That's another one of those questions that you can ask without asking a question. Play-by-play, go ahead and declare a winner of the turn cycle. Color can retort there. Obviously, we're always trying to do a yes and. If we can, that's one of those no buts that can be done gracefully.
And unfortunately for June, that eloquent
But
eulogy has been
the reason I
sitting
mention
in
that is I
banished
feel
zone
like
for
I'm
quite some
lacking
time. Granted,
context.
it's
I
only
want
1 damage
to
taken at
know
the end
what
of every
that
turn, as opposed to
how that plot point on our
what happened
overall
to me on
story
Vincent
went.
when I had 4 rune gate cards sitting in my banished zone at the end of a couple turns. But it's still, when the life totals are this close, that is something you really want to be paying attention to and trying to get out there.
Yeah, people say that Flesh and Blood is a game of inches, and every life point really
Justin,
does
you're just
matter,
mad because I
especially
whooped your
against
ass
a
with
deck
that
that's
Ziggy
just
deck.
trying to run your face over, like Dash.io.
Oh, yeah.
As we can see here, a backup protocol red from the hand cranked leads into a Fast and Furious for 4 go again here. So Dylan putting the pressure on June's life total here, despite being kind of low himself. Just needs to find enough offensive overlap, I think, to get over any potential blocks from June. Perhaps hoping that the blood debt that she's been accruing might be enough to do the job for him.
Oh, June. Look at June.
June's giving a good think about
There we go.
this
Nice.
particular block. But I will say, with having the backup protocol on the board, that is something that people have used time and time again to get a max fee back out of the graveyard.
Yeah, a very dangerous preposition, honestly. But like, even if you are unable to line up the maximum velocity, just being able to pitch a blue into it to grab back like a red zipper hit or something, just converting every card in your hand into pure offensive value makes us.
Yeah, so Ka, the affirmation there, the whole that is a fearsome proposition, Cara. It just delays getting to your point, because your point once again is good. You know context to give the audience when it comes to Max V coming back from the graveyard, etc., etc. But we've got that verbal garbage that then gets in the way. Don't be afraid, even though it feels really awkward in normal conversation, to not even acknowledge the fact that your co-caster has said anything. Just start a new sentence, right?
Are very versatile and very scary to sit across the table from. We can see June here looking through the graveyard, perhaps considering just what might be grabbed off of this protocol.
And in the banished zone as well, trying to get a better understanding of what may be left in the deck.
Yeah, that is one thing about Dash.io, is that with how quickly she goes through the deck, you can kind of make pretty educated guesses
Dylan
about
seems
where
sweet.
the rest of the cards might be based on what's in banish and what's in grave.
I'm sorry, does Dylan have 3 zipper hits in hand?
I think it was only 2, right?
I did not see what the other card was. I just saw the same image time and time again.
You're seeing double here all of a sudden then.
June still with 4 cards in hand and 1 in arsenal. We'll have to put one of
Okay,
those in
this
the
is
banish
another
zone.
one of those moments where you can, obviously we have a lot of dead visuals, and so this is a moment where we can zoom back out to level 3, talk about the tournament itself, even mention these are just 2 of the, I forget what it was, 568 players in the room doing battle at the U.S. National Championships. They remain at X and O, but for one of these players, that is about to end. Something like that, right? You don't have to stay in the game if you feel like you don't have anything else to say about it. And even that brief moment of mental respite can get you another point that you want to bring up. Maybe, okay, there's another get out of jail free card for June. Vexing Quill Hand is still there, unused. She hasn't had to use it. How can it change the context of this game? Maybe it can just be used instead of a Runegate enabler, a lethal enabler. And maybe she's piecing together, is there enough damage to make it so that Dylan cannot respond with any meaningful offense? That kind of thing.
At the start of her turn.
Yeah, but perhaps may not feel as inclined to keep a card in hand to banish where she already has 2 rune chants, so this Eloquent Eulogy is at least playable on board as we speak. So, oh yeah, that is just 2 zipper hits in hand. So one of those probably going to be turned into something else with that backup protocol red. The other one probably just going to be sent straight at June's life total here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the cost curve now, Cara. What are the actual play lines that Dylan has available to him? What color were those zipper hits? If one is yellow, then we can activate Teklo Foundry Heart to both play the other one in hand and activate backup protocol red. What is the ceiling on damage this turn, and how does that affect June's blocking decisions? How many cards is she going to have to give up in order to stay alive?
I feel like with the dyadic...
Right. It seems like June is about to take the damage. Indeed.
Yeah.
Going down to 7.
Deciding perhaps that she can't afford to play around Boom Grenade or something like that. As we can see that Dylan has not activated the Dash.io hero ability this turn. So the top of the deck is still very much a mystery to June.
Kai asks, yeah, finding time to zoom out and talk about not game action things always feels a little scary to me. Is it too jarring to suddenly snap back into the action, or am I just overthinking that bit? It's something that I'm sure feels scary because you're afraid of detracting from what is going on. You're going to start to find the windows of opportunity pretty naturally. I think something that happens to anybody that puts in a certain number of hours into anything, once you reach a certain level of mastery, everything kind of starts to feel like it's going in slow motion. You'll find these moments where something isn't necessarily happening that is super relevant to the game state, and so you can provide some broader context, or you can see it as an extra bit of a value add, because just like movies, books, all that kind of stuff, you do need moments to breathe. It can't all be high octane casting from the get-go. That gets just as tiresome as dead air. Okay? Moderation in all things, right? Now that I've remembered my phrase.
To keep in mind. Looks like blue zipper hit into the pitch to fuel this Teklo Foundry Heart. So Dylan will be making 4 resources total off of that. And having cleared the top of the deck again.
So Vistructor 713, it's pretty rare overall for us to have deck lists in hands.
Get the rest of the way there.
In hand. Most of the time it's not until top 8, even if we do. So for example, at US Nationals right here, Sam and Punkish are casting this game with no deck knowledge.
And he still has a few more chances to go fishing, right? With 4 resources floating, could protocol...
Which is actually a good talking point, because one of the things that we're trying to do, especially in the analyst seat, is put ourselves into the player's seat. What are they thinking? What are they considering? And it's important for us to provide that context that they don't know what they're facing. Specifically at sideboard presentation, we just saw this at AG St. Louis last weekend, where who was it? I think it was a Hala. Melody Wilson went up against Nathaniel Brower, and Melody essentially just guessed wrong on which Acilio she was facing off with. It was the Gone in a Flash variant. She came in with a B3, perhaps expecting the Lucas Oswald All Arcane variant. And so that's something to provide context to the audience and also help the audience not judge players too harshly, right? We always want to try to make the players look as good as humanly possible because we chose to put them on camera. And that's a vulnerable thing that we've asked them to do for our viewing pleasure and also to perhaps the derision of people in chat. Chat is not, I mean, Flesh and Blood is better than most communities, but chat is not known for being gentle or kind to the people on camera. And so being aware and respectful of what the players are giving you is part of casting well. And also something I always bring up is that it's freaking nerve-wracking, man. I mean, I, for one, the first time I got on stream at AGE, I got clobbered. And I was all excited to do it too, because I was like, the nerves aren't going to get to me. I am familiar with, camera work, that kind of stuff. I've been in front of a camera before. Not that big of a deal. First couple turns, I made like massive mistakes. That's just part of playing on camera, and it affects everybody. And so being cognizant of that and appreciative of what the players are giving you is paramount.
And pick up either a 0 cost or a 2 cost attack, and then just keep swinging.
You see his facial expression. He's really given this a good think. I wonder if he has something in mind that he wants to do, but he is just trying to figure out, how can I possibly get there?
Nice, Cara.
Yeah, that's the thing about a deck like Dash.io. Like, the power of looking at the top of your deck is incredibly strong. A very worthwhile, considering that you start at 4 less life, but also it just means that the amount of options available are just that much more, where you know what you could draw off of something like a Cerebellum processor and what you'll be boosting. So we can see here
Fast and Furious into him.
Yeah, Justin says, I would say that the zoom out can feel usually bad as a viewer because it usually is too removed from the game. Inside jokes, random segue, etc. I think I understand what you're saying there, Justin. There was a breed of Flesh and Blood caster that in the past felt like they were talking about anything but the game. And that drove me personally insane. The zoom out I'm talking about, obviously, is something that is not directly related to the board state that we see, but still has relevance to the players that are sitting before us. So zooming out and reminding everybody of the stakes of the match is very different than saying something like, I don't know, rain raisins a billion times.
And
coming back again, so zipper hit off the top means that once again June is put into this precarious situation where if she declares no blocks on this, and if Dylan just happens to have found another boom grenade off the top, that would just be the end of the game right here. So I think that's what she was thinking long and hard about during the last turn, and perhaps this one yet again.
Do you think Dylan's playing 9 zipper hits? Because I feel like we've seen way too many.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard, right? The blue one is still an okay attack, and then the other ones are just above rate.
And Jesse, I'd caution you
I
of
feel like I was just
going
playing
too far in the other
6
direction as
for some
well.
time. I can't remember what I replaced them with.
When you can't really make yourself or your
Regardless,
co-caster
the 9 zipper
relatable to the
seems to
audience
be doing
as
Dylan
human
pretty
beings,
well so far
it's just as
at 2
detrimental
here at
as if you were to,
championship. So
say, completely derail the game as
may
well.
want to consider bumping up
It is
that
a fun
count.
thing. Your job
I'm
is to
definitely
entertain
looking at Dash
people
for the future.
above all else. That is the reason for the cast.
Yeah, it looks
It's
like
just Flesh and Blood
Investment
players
Whale and
appreciate
Spellbound
somebody
Reaper is going to
who
cover
has
this
knowledge
Fast
about the
and
game
Furious.
and that they can
June
learn
is
something
indeed
from.
respecting the
That's knowing
possibility
our
of a
audience.
grenade, but zipper hit out of
They also
the
don't want us to be
here.
robots, though.
Clearing the top of the deck yet again. Dylan just keeps rolling it here. And June once again blocks it out. Cull from hand, as well as Dyadic Carapace from the chest piece here.
Oh,
Dylan finds another processor off the
big
top
moment.
here.
Come on.
Going to crank it for that action point. Now the question is if he's gonna.
And now, I fear I've harped too much on verbal exclamations. I don't want you to never do them. It's just that I don't want you to do them in the middle of something your co-caster is saying. And if you do them, for example, if Kyle were to respond with, whoa, and there's a cerebellum processor off the top, that would be fine because he is emoting and also providing the understanding of why he's emoting at the same time, right?
Shoot off the gun.
That was a big
That
moment.
just
I really wanted to hear
on the
something
top
more
part of
from
the
there.
deck and put it into arsenal for next turn.
From that.
When it comes to games like this, I do wish that we didn't have to wait in suspense and we could see exactly what was on the top of the deck when the Dash players take a peek, because this is going to start getting stressful very, very soon. I think that with a player or with a hero like Dash, being able to take these big, wide turns, and then also with June's life total being where it is, he's going to be able to fire off this gun twice and then maybe a card from hand each time for June, not leaving much way to set up for a big turn next time.
Yeah, although with Dylan only at 10, June does not need that big of a turn to close the door here. Looks like processor activation is the choice for Dylan. Going to
Likes
draw
the
a
card
card,
on top.
immediately put it into
He
arsenal.
thinks he's
as
going to
he
get
tries
another
to
shot.
move further action points here. I think that was a throttle there too. So a very strong attack going into arsenal as we pass the turn back to June.
But I think at this point, maybe mention it is a resource hungry card. And if June is holding on to 2 cards and going down to 5 life, she might think she has enough potent offense to rob Dylan at least of a few cards, enough to keep her in the game. Once again, we got to declare a winner of that turn cycle and not necessarily a loser of it, but we got to keep trying to tell a story. We're laying down plot points. Just like an author, we are writing as we go, right?
Be in hand for Dylan Ford.
Yeah, it looks like a widespread ruin banished at the start of turn for the Vincent hero ability. Going to create a third ruin
clean.
chant. June, thinking about the hero activation on the Shadow Puppetry, decides against it. I think that seems pretty reasonable, where
Nice call.
she does not need to activate the Vincent to confirm a rune chant damage anymore. Dylan, with AV0, will just have to accept all 3 of these rune chants, all 3 of these cats coming his way.
Cute. Okay, so this actually brings me to Vistructor 713 again. Do you balance that adding your personality much more to the in-between game side of things? I think the answer, I've been considering it for a little bit. I think the answer is no. Definitely not for me. I can't help but let personality be injected into pretty much everything I do as a caster. And I mention it now because Ka just let loose a little bit right in the middle of his play-by-play, right? He can no longer prevent any of these rune chants. He's going to take all of these kitty cats straight on the head. Whatever he said, right? There was a little bit of personality injected there. It was a callback to an inside joke that had happened previously in the match. Yeah, there you go. It's business combined with a little bit of personal flair. You're having fun and also doing your job. Two things can be true at once, and this is no exception. No blocks TCG. Yeah, that is the idea.
And then the 7. Again, same thing.
Specifically, I'm trying to teach
Makes
these
you
3
wonder,
people how to be
is
great casters.
Dylan going to want to keep that top card of the deck?
Now, something I wish there was another opportunity for a throw. It's like not an F grade because you didn't grab it, Cara, but I do think that we could have harped a little bit longer on the consideration of the Shadow Puppetry Vincent hero ability trigger. One of the things that went left unsaid is that she doesn't really benefit from the on pain side of widespread ruin so much. In fact, she could very much lose equity because of it. If she hits another blood deck card that she can't use because she's not going to be generating any rune chants except for maybe the Vexing Quill hand, then she could just be furthering the game plan of Dylan by taking more damage. That was something that an analyst could provide a little bit more context for.
I mean, he doesn't get much of a choice in the matter with AB0. All 3 of those rune chants were taken, so Dylan has taken damage this turn. So on the combat chain close, will have to banish the top card of the deck due to widespread rune. But first, we have to get through the blocking phase here, as that is an attack for 7, which is currently Dylan's forward.
Oh, Destructor, Dan. Yes. That's Daniel Hansen, question mark?
Defense here.
Did we ever see what June put in the arsenal?
I don't know.
God dang. I don't know how all of you New England people are still up. Go to bed.
Because unfortunately, right now.
What's up, Dan? Always good to see an AGE regular in the chat.
What is she going to do to be able to play that widespread, eloquent eulogy out of her banished zone, unless it's something in her arsenal that she would be able to play?
I mean, she has the Vexing Quill hand, at least. And
nice call.
Does give widespread rune go again, so could at least just close the combat chain, activate the Quill hand for 2 or more rune chants, and then send that eulogy out of banish.
And we should be adding up the math right now, Cara. Is this presenting lethal? If it is, how many cards is it going to strip from Dylan when it comes down to trying to survive? And what does that mean for his clapback?
Know about the max fee, and we believe there's a throttle in the arsenal.
Yep, Spark Genius, Max V, and Tekla Foundry Heart here used to cover up that 7 very efficiently out of Dylan, going to prevent June from looking and perhaps banishing the top card of her deck. So, not many resources available here. Just kind of has that Quill hand and that flail here.
And we should probably mention at this point, Dylan likely seeing the writing on the wall. All of these are not sip pieces because they're not starting in play, but they are in play. He sees the Eloquent Eulogy. He sees the Vexing Quill hand. He's got to be thinking about June's game plan as much as his.
Yeah, looks like Cracking Quill Hand is the move for June. Going to create 2 more rune chants, and that will allow her to send this Eloquent Eulogy.
Dan, we're all up, Big Mungus.
He's thinking about it.
I feel like she kind of probably just has to rip it here, right? Like going down to 4 seems a little dangerous. Doesn't threaten lethal on Dylan just yet, but I don't really know how many more options that she has here. And this eulogy's blood dips.
Thinking about the flail. She was just hovering over it for a moment, but
this is nice. I like what you guys are doing here. You're trying to get into June's head. She's tanking for some reason, even though we saw a pretty straightforward play line. What could she be thinking about? You've mentioned the card in the arsenal. This is all really good stuff.
That would put her at a lower life total, exactly down to 4. Here we go. The Eloquent Eulogy.
Yeah, so Eulogy was the choice here, going to come in for 4 with those 2.
You can even take it a step further and talk about what Dylan could be gleaning from that kind of information. I talked about using these player cams in a big way. One of the things that a lot of people maybe miss or just don't talk about enough is that this is an in-person game. People can be read, and there's a lot of skill expression in the way that you literally lay your cards down. I mean, I can sniff out certain cards from certain players just because I know their mannerisms, right?
Good chance. Dylan, with only 2 cards in hand, probably can't.
Point I want to drive home, it's a human game. Provide the human element.
Just keep threatening lethal over and over. Try and force those
realistically, all
cards.
he needs to do is keep 1 so that he would be able to play that throttle out.
Yeah,
nice, Cara. There we go.
Eloquence does.
What does this mean for Dylan's turn?
Thinking long and hard about this one. It's definitely a very tough decision to make here. Going down to 1 kind of means that you would have to kill June on this next turn, because with no arcane barrier, all of these rune chants are effectively true damage. Let's see.
Okay.
Yep. Wow. All right, Dylan.
Okay, Cara, I think your version of this verbal exclamation like I was hearing from Jesse. Jesse's is, whoa, okay. Yours is, okay. Let's avoid using that kind of stuff, especially when play-by-play is in the driver's seat.
Oof.
Readily going down to 1 here. Happy to say no blocks. So I believe that one way or another, this next turn will be the last turn of the game.
Nice, Ka. You see what you did that? You kind of zoomed out a little bit. No, we're not talking about exactly what's happening on the board. We're not talking about cards themselves. You are providing, like, everybody tune in right now because this is the climax of the game. Blink twice and you'll miss it.
Let's see. It looked like he didn't want to take all of it, but I think he's realizing that he's at the end of the line. It is now or never.
Yeah.
Good, Cara. Way to pick that up as well.
Throttle. A pretty good way to start it off here. Coming in for 6 go again. With that heist in hand as well. And one resource floating means that this Tekla Foundry Heart is going to be able to generate enough resources to send that heist from hand as well. So June has to find a clean way to block out this attack here. Coming in for 6. Thinking about the Mauve Skies on block. Currently.
Ooh, but guys, yeah, let's... Okay, let's talk about getting a 2-block in the hand. This is a moment where June has got to find a way to survive, let alone respond.
4 over, but going to put down a reduced to Rune Chant as well. Having to pay for it, though, because she doesn't have any Rune Chants, means that this hand just blocks so much worse now. Forced to
okay, now Ka, as play-by-play, this is a moment, if I see this without even glimpsing the hand or anything, this is a moment where, you know, my heart starts to race. I'm slowly starting to increase that cadence because I am smelling blood in the air. I'm seeing a moment, maybe June's not dead this turn, but this could be the thing that puts her in the grave because all of a sudden she's going to be on the back foot. If Dylan gets another 4-card hand, I don't think it's looking good.
Into the pitch just to make this reduce work out.
And that is unfortunate.
And Dylan here going to activate that Tekla Foundry Heart.
Cara, if Ka gives you space there, we need something other than that is unfortunate, right? Provide more value. That is the thing I want you with in the back of your head at all times, especially as the analyst. How do I provide value based on what just came before, right?
For the 2 resources, has the heist in hand, can send it here, and with the...
What's up, Clark? Yeah,
hand,
that is kind of the upshot of what we're talking about.
Blocks 3.
Set the stakes.
I think...
We talked earlier about success states and fail states.
Right? Because June blocks 4 total with that Carapace and the 3 block in hand, and then Dylan can get an item from Banish, crank it for the action point, and then just shoot the Symbiosis shot twice.
I agree. And that is something that I do love about being able to get your action points back for this hero, is saying, well, my turn looks like it's over. Just kidding.
Yeah, I think Dylan may have threaded the needle just perfectly here, surviving that last attack for 1 and finding just enough damage to close it out here, unless that...
So this is a counterintuitive moment, right? I've talked about how if I'm in the play-by-play seat, I'm going to start increasing, I'm going to start preparing for an end game. All of a sudden, my player starts tanking on blocks. This is a situation where I might try to throw very quickly back to my color to provide context for, is there any out in this situation? They're going to take up the mantle just for a little bit until we can just delay until I get to do my final rise and fall, right? All the time you are going to try to make that picture perfect moment at the end of a game, and players are going to throw a wrench in the plan. Be prepared for it and ride the wave. Be okay with slightly going up and then drooping down and riding it all the way to the finish. Be comfortable with discomfort, I think, is really what it is. And that's why the main piece of advice is make sure that it is exponential growth. Think of it as like a bell curve rather than linear, or be cognizant of not getting too big too quickly.
Arsenal is a defense reaction from June. I don't know if she has enough block available to cover up the rest of
Lucas92005, thanks so much for providing support to these wonderful people.
Wow,
You can
that
see
is
June really.
They're gonna kick
really
ass in
thinking
2
and
weeks.
She's come to the same realization that you have.
yeah, that is tough. Like you have to imagine that the blood debt damage really did matter a lot this game. If June had even one more life, Dylan would not be able to threaten lethal with.
What do you guys? Everybody that plays Flesh and Blood has been in this situation. Look at June. The writing's on the wall. She knows it. What does that feel like? What are you trying to do in that moment, even though you see that you're totally screwed? You are mentally trying to will the card in your hand to be anything else. You are wondering where it all went wrong. Provide that human context. She's giving you the space to do it. So one of the ways we can zoom out in this situation is because we're trying to build towards the end, and inevitably there's going to be a moment where a tank happens like we're seeing now, and it's got to kind of like slowly fall and then drop off the cliff, the energy that I mean. Anytime I sense a moment where we drop off the cliff, that's when I'll take a pregnant pause, and then I'll mention June Luxtutus, head in hands, trying with all her might to will the card in her hand to be something that blocks a little bit more. Right now, with 5 life in a heist on the combat chain, she stares down defeat in a fantastic 2-0 run here at U.S. National, right? I mean, there's a way to stay low, but also remain in the intensity of the moment. And also keep yourself locked and loaded, ready for the rise at the end.
Play here, but as things stand, unless that's a D-react down there, I'd imagine though if it was a defense reaction, June probably would have snap blocked it by now, right?
Right, good call.
And that's one of the things about playing Vincent is hindsight is always 20/20. You may think, oh, just I can take one more point of blood damage, and then I'll be able to send a bigger turn, and then it just comes in. It really bites you in the end.
And it may also be coming to bite June here that just that little bit of extra life does go a long way. We can see her really agonizing over this block.
This is also a point where, I don't know, I guess bigger casters like Samurai, not big in fame or acumen or anything, bigger in terms of we like to affect a lot. We like to loop in colorful language. This is something where a position where we might try to like dip into what little we know about lore. In this case, I might say like, Vincent Iron Maiden harnesses the power of the Demonastery, but the issue here, of course, is that the bill comes at the end. The blood debt does come to reclaim, and with great power comes great pain. Something like that.
Now, I think in her mind right now, she is thinking through every possible iteration of what Dylan is going to be able to do after this turn.
She's traversing Arathiel, trying to find a way through.
It's like blocking 3 on 5, so June down to 3 after taking 2. Dylan, with the on-hit of this heist, going to be able to choose any item that costs 0 or 1 from the Vantage
Damn,
Zone
this
and
game
put
is
it
so
onto
good.
the field, which means that he'll be able to boost the item, gain a second action point, and then fire off this symbiosis shot twice. I don't really know if it matters which item he chooses. I think it's just the crank is the important part here, right?
Yeah, I agree.
But perhaps Dylan just wanting to...
Yeah, so Cara, that was an instance where instead of, yeah, I agree, we could go into why might the choice matter. If you don't feel like it does, bring it back to the human element. Dylan has sequenced everything, blocks, attacks perfectly this game. He is in despite being at 1, down to AB0. If June is able to activate the rune chant on her side of the board, it will be curtains for -IO, but he remains stalwart. He's got to make the right decision here, and the weight of it bears down on him, right? Anything but I agree with what you said, Ka, right? Trying to eliminate empty calorie casting. Provide value.
Dot his I's, cross his T's, make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible to ensure victory here. He goes for the boom grenade. gets the crank. And just doing those last second calculations.
And that's a throw to you,
perhaps.
Cara. You can talk about why the boom grenade might be the choice over the backup protocol red. We don't have any more resources floating, so backup protocol red is literally nothing. At least boom grenade, well, I guess they literally don't matter. Okay, forget it. But bottom line, I do believe that is 100% the responsibility of the color caster to always have something locked and loaded. I talked earlier about treating your brain like random access memory when you're the analyst. You are constantly waiting for the moment that play-by-play takes a breath, and that is not always going to come when you expect it to. So I want you always to be thinking about something that can provide value if Cobb has a heart attack right in the middle of his sentence, right? You've always got to have something locked and loaded. And the other side of that is that you need to be willing to flush your point away when it no longer becomes relevant. It's advice for both casters, but doubly for the analyst, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Interesting.
he does have 2 action points, so he does. The draw is pretty free. He
Oh,
does
wait,
know
the
what
draw.
he will be drawing into.
Yeah.
as
So
well.
that's what I was going for. The boom grenade does have
Yep,
relevance.
finds a 0 cost boost, so going to send in this heist for 3. Go again.
Kaboom!
Gets the dyadic carapace block out of June.
Nope.
Yeah,
The fist
June.
bump has been offered.
Yeah, June also realizing that was game there, and just like that, Dylan Ford managing.
Okay, so once again, we do have an instance where we end on a bit of a downbeat, which is really never where we want to be. That was a very difficult end game for a seasoned casting duo or even a brand new one to navigate. There were that turn cycle lasted a good 5-6 minutes or something like that, and the entire time we were riding the wave, trying to find the moment where it's going to end. I think it is best to be most cognizant of when game actions actually get taken. The second that T-Bone comes down into the arena, that's another instance where you can start building. And in that case, you would have saved yourself by being on the upswing. It's pretty much okay to go from wherever you're at. As long as you were on the ascension, you can jump right up to 10 when you get that winner's screen. The issue really becomes when you're, for example, kind of calming things down and all of a sudden the game ends, then you go up to 10. That's something that's way more jarring for the audience. So as long as you are constantly picturing yourself on this wave of excitement, I think you can find your way through. Hope this is making sense. I'm getting awfully tired. It is almost midnight my time. I'm on 2-year-old time, so I do not stay up this late anymore.
Find the line, surviving at 1, and closing out the game from there against June.
Well, and like you said, I think it very much is threading the needle, and now Dylan's going to be able to move into round 4.
Okay, so I haven't said it yet for this caster duo. The format that I want you guys to be familiar with in these endgame scenarios, but not necessarily always adhere to, is play-by-play caster gets us into that winner's screen. Obviously, we're hoping for an upswing in terms of excitement. The last moments of the game are described again. In this case, it would be like the last attack action card that Dylan could send on this turn will end up carrying the day. Because of 2 damage and the explosion of a boom grenade, Dylan Ford ascends to 3-0, leaving in his wake a destructed June Lextutus and Vincent Iron Maiden. Once play-by-play exits their big grandiose outro, then color steps in, provides the context, retells the story of the game is often the way I like to talk about it, but in a sentence that is somewhere like 20 words or less, right? What started with a perfect setup by June Lextutus and multiple turns of I guess it was 1 turn of significant destruction, and then straight up Vincent mid-range gameplay is overcome by the overwhelming power of Dash A, blah, something like that, right? But that's the format. Play-by-play gets their emotional moment when they come up for air. color takes us back through what we just saw. And then when we cut back to our
Undefeated.
casters, we can talk about what happened in that game. Oh, that turn was amazing. That turn was amazing too. Oh, but what if this went a little bit differently? Carry us into our ad read, right? Hope this all made a lot of sense. I'm not known for making sense with a lot of my words, but I hope you felt it. Thanks everybody for hanging out in chat. This was a hoot of a good time. And Jesse, one of our casters, says, this was extremely helpful, Bryce. I would like to, if you are willing, maybe work through one of these VOD reviews again, since Cara and I have to get you another game anyways. I was originally very nervous about the public forum, but after 2.5 pages of notes, I think ultimately it helped me be a little more forward-facing. Awesome, Jesse. I'm glad you found value in it. And thanks to everybody who joined us in chat for being incredibly supportive and also curious. That's the main thing that I wanted for you guys. And Jesse, I do hope that this early exposure to the public side of things goes to show you that most of the people in the Flesh and Blood community just want you to do your best, and they want to be your cheerleaders. And that's one of the coolest things about our game. So fully expect more of that when it comes down to your first show. The good people in the Flesh and Blood world will be your cheerleaders. They're going to support you. Ka says, yeah, this was very helpful. Gave me a lot more to think over before next practice. Thank you for your time tonight. Who do you feel fit each role the best? That's a great question. I do think, so based on, I think we can all agree that the last game was the cleanest between Cara and Ka. I think Ka, based on what I've seen so far, had the most natural inclination to play-by-play. That's the one I'm going to judge the hardest because it's the one that I felt. Jesse, I think you were strongest in the color seat. I really want to see more from Cara in play-by-play. I don't think that game that I saw of hers was indicative of what she can do. The technical issues made it really, really hard to judge. So, Jesse, I do look forward to seeing another VOD there. Would be happy to do another stream if you guys think it's going to be helpful. Thanks for what I do, Anthony. Thanks for what you do, brother. AGE Pro Team is nothing without you. Really, really happy to have you in the leadership position that you're at. Again, thanks everybody for joining us. Wow, there was a lot of chatting going on there. I completely missed it because I was all in on it. Chiming in just to hear. Never really thought about how good. Yeah, it's a really fun thing to be a caster. It's also a really fun thing to give yourself over to it and be passionate about it because there is a lot that goes into it. Really, really love doing this for this game, and thanks so much for appreciating it. No Blocks TCG a while ago said this is such a cool concept, always giving back to the community. I wish I could say it was my idea. I do think it is an incredible concept, but it's one that personally helped me a lot. So I do want to give one special thanks to Mitch Leslie for going through this process with me. He came over to my house, and at the cost of free dinner, sat down with me and ripped one of my VODs to shreds. And it was one of the most influential things that anybody has done for me on my casting arc. So can't thank him enough for that. And it was so important to me that I wanted to do it for other people. So once again, hope a lot of you found value in it because I know I had a lot of fun doing it. So Jesse, if you get me another VOD, maybe we do this again. I would sign up for that. Before I go, I just want to mention real quick that there's more AGE on the horizon. The AGE Open Series is going to return to YouTube next month, and it's going to be really exciting because we've got a doubleheader weekend coming up with the Battleground that Jesse, Ka, and Cara are all training for. That'll be the Grave Troll Games Battleground, and then the very next day, it'll be a streamed AGE New England Open, and it'll be at the same venue as the Battlegrounds. AGE will be providing production support for the Battleground itself, and it's going to be a hoot of a good time. But we are going to be kicking Jesse, Ka, and Cara out of the booth after the Battleground so that they can join us at the AG New England Open the next day if they so choose. I'm sure they're going to be freaking exhausted after their first show anyway. Besides that, we've got the LA Open on July 25th. That'll be coming to our YouTube channel again. And that's all I got for now. Stay tuned for more fun at AGE, and stay tuned and see what Jesse, Ka, and Cara are able to do come 2 weeks. I'm really excited to see how they grow. Okay, that is it for me. Everybody go the frick to sleep. It's so late. Love you all. Good night.